Chapter 977. Although it was just a shallow scratch and there was not much blood, it was enough to surprise Hyojin. After all, due to the lightning escape stimulation technique, the speed and reflexes of this lightning escape clone were among the best among all of his clones. Only the wind escape clone with atavism could be compared to it. Even if it was the Een escape clone, if it did not activate the Tenseigan chakra mode in its normal state, it would not be as fast as this thunder escape clone. But even with such speed, it almost got hit. While Hyojin was secretly surprised, Naruto slowly stood up, lowered his head, and the expression on his face could not be seen. At this time, Naruto's whole body was wrapped in the orange-red Nine Tails chakra. This time, the tailed beast coat seemed to be more intense and violent than before. There were constantly bubbles boiling and tumbling inside, as if reflecting Naruto's current angry and anxious state of mind. Then, tails stretched out from the tailed beast coat. 1, 2, 3, 4. When he saw the fifth tail slowly stretching out from the tailed beast coat, Hyojin's expression suddenly changed, and he exclaimed, "It's going berserk?" The number of tails directly reflected the degree of the tailed beast transformation. Before this, Naruto in the tailed beast transformation had at most 4 tails, so when the fifth tail appeared, it either meant that Naruto had broken through again, or Naruto had lost control and went berserk. Naruto's sudden outbreak immediately attracted the attention of several people around him. Feeling the violent Nine Tails chakra on Naruto, Ningxi on the ground hurriedly shouted, "Naruto, wake up!" Orochimaru, who was strangling Sasuke's neck, smiled casually and said, "Lost control?" In the distance, seeing Naruto reveal the fifth tail, the main examiner Asuma exclaimed, "Not good, Naruto is going berserk." Kakashi stared at Naruto as he prepared to launch the Flying Thunder God technique at any time. The rampage of Nine Tails' human Jinchuria was no small matter, but fortunately, there was more than one kaleidoscope Uchiha in the village now, so the tragedy of the Nine Tails rebellion would not happen again. Compared to Naruto, who seemed to have gone berserk, Jishui and Shinichi paid more attention to Sasuke. It's just that the expectation on their faces is getting less and less, and more disappointment, because Sasuke is obviously going into asphyxiation, and he didn't awaken the Manjikyu Sharingan as they hoped. In the field, Walala in the boiling tailed beast coat, after the fifth tail, the sixth tail also stretched out. At the same time, Naruto's skin began to gradually melt, becoming bloody, and his body also lowered like a beast, and a large amount of white steam overflowed from the corner of his mouth. "TSK, that Nine Tails guy dared to play with me!" Kuroto cursed under his breath. Swish, suddenly, Naruto, who had revealed the state of 6 tails, moved. His figure flashed, and he suddenly pounced on Hyojin, and fiercely waved his claws. Hyojin's expression became solemn, and he didn't dare to be careless, and quickly flew away to avoid it. In the face of wood release, a natural means to restrain oneself like the Sharingan, Nine Tails did not seem to have any cards, but in the face of ordinary ninjas, Nine Tails was almost invincible. In the chaos of Nine Tails, even though there were 3 generations and 4 generations in the village, the Nine Tails still turned the world upside down. In the end, 4 generations sacrificed themselves to use Ghoul Seal to solve the raging Nine Tails, and that disaster was quelled. Therefore, in the face of the 6-tailed beast Naruto, Hyojin, who was controlling the Thunder Release clone, did not dare to underestimate the enemy, because his Thunder Release clone did not have any convenient means to restrain the tailed beast. In the original space and time, Tendo Pain could not suppress Naruto in this state. Rumble, although Hyojin avoided it, Naruto's chakra giant claws extended all the way out, scratching a deep trench in the ground, accompanied by a roar, instantly destroying a large number of trees. Just when everyone thought that Naruto had gone berserk, Naruto, who had forced Hyojin to retreat, did not chase after Hyojin. Instead, he pounced on Orochimaru, who was strangling Sasuke's neck without warning. Caught off guard, Orochimaru could only let go of Sasuke and retreat far away. At this time, two giant chakra claws stretched out from Naruto's tailed beast coat, one grabbing Ningxi, and the other grabbing Sasuke. Then, with just a few ups and downs, they disappeared into the forest, without a trace. Bam bam bam, as the three of them retreated, the three giant psychic beasts, Sinya the snake, Bunta the toad, and Big Wild Boar, all dispelled their psychic abilities in the white smoke. Looking at the direction in which Naruto disappeared, Hyojin was stunned for a moment before he reacted. This brat Naruto, he was actually pretending to go berserk just now. He even fooled me. Without a doubt, Naruto did not go berserk just now. He pretended to lose consciousness and go berserk just to confuse Hyojin and Orochimaru, so that he could save Sasuke and Ningxi, who had already lost the ability to fight. Naruto probably doesn't know this. It's 9 Tails. Hyojin quickly guessed that this idea must have been taught to Naruto by 9 Tails, so he laughed. From the cooperation just now, it was obvious that the combination of Naruto and 9 Tails was getting more and more tacit. Moreover, Naruto was able to maintain his own consciousness in the state of revealing 6 tails, which meant that his tailed beast transformation had broken through again. He had made great progress in controlling 9 Tails chakra, and was one step closer to the 9 Tails chakra mode. Orochimaru also looked in the direction of Naruto's departure and smiled. Interesting. Sasuke was rescued by Naruto, but he did not care much. Because he had found that all the Jonin invigilators had gathered nearby, staring at this side, so at this time, he no longer had the idea of forcibly taking Sasuke away. Immediately, Orochimaru turned his head and looked deeply at Hyojin. He stuck out his tongue and licked his lips. Kirin of the Mist Village, I'll remember you. Swish! Without waiting for Hyojin to answer, Orochimaru's figure flashed and disappeared. Xiang Lin and Shuizuki rushed to Hyojin's side at this time. Staring at the eye-catching scratch on Hyojin's chest, Xiang Lin quickly stretched out her arm. It's just a flesh wound. Hyojin smiled and shook his head. Shuizuki looked around at the mess caused by Kimamaro's dance of the early ferns, Haku's ice release, Sasuke and Bunta the Toad's toad oil flame bomb, and the fight between Orochi Sinya and the Big Wild Boar. She faintly sighed. Even if it's a ninja village level battle, it's nothing more than this. Hyojin sighed softly. As expected, Naruto is the only one who can break through himself. Is this the child of the prophecy? The first update is here, asking for recommendation votes, monthly votes. Chapter 978. While he was happy for Naruto's breakthrough, Hyojin also felt a little emotional. In fact, he knew very well that among the three of them, Naruto was the most likely to break through his own limit. Compared to Naruto, even Sasuke, who was the reincarnation of Indra, was obviously weaker. But he still couldn't help but hope that Sasuke and Ningxi could also break through their own limit. Especially Ningxi, he hoped that his disciple, who had been bound by fate, could also dig out the hidden potential in his bloodline in a desperate situation. But the truth was so cold and cruel. Sure enough, I was thinking too much, Hyojin shook his head. Not everyone could break through their own limits in a desperate situation, or in other words, only those who had this ability were the real abnormal, and Ningxi was undoubtedly ordinary. He did have talent that surpassed the ordinary Hyuga clansman, but compared to Naruto, who was the child of prophecy, he was still the ordinary one. In the original time and space, Ningxi's death could be summed up as an ordinary person who made an extraordinary choice and paid the price. In Hyojin's opinion, Ningxi's pursuit of Naruto and Sasuke was actually futile. Because the gap between Ningxi and the reincarnation of the two sons of Sage of Samsara, Naruto and Sasuke, was not something that could be made up with just hard work. And this also made Hyojin empathize. Because as he mastered the Purple Lightning and Mist Release bloodline limit, he had a major breakthrough in the development of this Thunder Release clone, and he was one step closer to breaking through the bloodline net. It was also because of this that his future was inexplicably shaken. Looking at Ningxi, who was still gradually being left behind by Naruto and Sasuke, he didn't know if his attempts to break through the bloodline succession net were as futile and laughable in the eyes of people of a higher level as Ningxi was in his own eyes. Can fate really be changed? Can I become the third Kekkei net in the shinobi world after Kagaya and Sage of Six Paths? Can I really become a god? Hyojin wasn't shaken and troubled for too long, so he collected his thoughts. As the saying goes, man proposes, God disposes. Since he had already come this far, there was no way he would back down. Even if he had to die, he would die on the path of breaking through the bloodline succession net. Meanwhile, Shueiyu asked, "Where are we going next?" After pondering for a moment, Hyojin said, "To the central sentry tower." After saying that, Hyojin jumped and galloped towards the central sentry tower of the Forest of Death. Because of the encounter with Mai's team that was affected by the battle between him and Druid, they obtained a scroll, and gathered the 2 scrolls needed for the second exam, so now they don't need to look for trouble with other teams, and can directly rush to the central sentry tower to complete the exam. After all, the Sharkskin is still in the casino, so they still have to pass the exam. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, after Kuroto led Xiang Lin and Mizukage away from the battlefield, the group of invigilators on the periphery also landed on the empty battlefield one after another. Looking around, the invigilators were speechless. Everywhere they looked were crisscrossed ravines of different depths, and large and small pits. Especially the place where Tenya and the big wild boar fought, there were many huge depressions. The air was full of the smell of burning, and the trees were burnt into black charcoal, emitting green smoke everywhere. Some of the trees had fallen to the side, some were half stuck in the mud, and some were toppled over in pieces. They had been burnt into a pile of unrecognizable charcoal. And the strange thing is, next to these flashing green smoke trees, you can see large pieces of condensed ice crystals, and small puddles of floating ice. After a long time, Asuma said, "Unknowingly, Naruto and Sasuke have grown to this point." Kurenai looked worried. "If I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have let Hinata and the others sign up for this Chunin exam. I don't know how they are now." Kakashi nodded. "This Chunin exam is really not suitable for them. Naruto and Sasuke, the strongest of their batch, were forced into a life and death situation, not to mention other graduates of the same batch, they might really die." Richa looked at the direction in which Naruto, Sasuke, and Ningxi evacuated. Because of the Byakugan, he knew that Ningxi had just been seriously injured, and he was very worried. On Hyojin's side, on the way to the central sentry tower, their team was unimpeded. Almost all the teams they encountered fled at the sight of them. There was even a team that had set up a trap, and when they saw them, they didn't even bother to activate the trap and fled in panic. So, taking advantage of this leisure time, Hyojin pondered about Sasuke's awakening of the Manjikyu Sharingan. When Orochimaru abused Sasuke just now, the Sharingan in Sasuke's eye sockets did change under the emotional agitation. This, Hyojin is very sure of. But this is not enough, far from enough. The threat of death can be said to be the greatest emotional stimulation for the average person, but for Uchiha, it is not the best emotion to stimulate them to awaken the Manjikyu Sharingan. From Uchiha Madara to Obsidian, Jishue, Shinichi, Itachi, and so on, none of them awakened the Manjikyu Sharingan because of the threat of death. This also once again verified Hyojin's analysis of the Uchiha clan. The best stimulation for each Uchiha is different, but the simple threat of death is not the best stimulation for any Uchiha. Their brain circuitry is somewhat different from that of ordinary people. And according to the situation observed today, and thinking about the reason why Sasuke awakened the Manjikyu Sharingan in the original time and space, Hyojin had a whole set of stimulation plans in his mind. It didn't take long for Hyojin's team to arrive at the central sentry tower. After handing over the Heaven and Earth scroll, they came to the rest area and found that Druid's team had already arrived here. In addition, Fumo's team was also in the rest area. As soon as they saw Hyojin, Kumo's Samui and Hiroshi became nervous, and their eyes were full of vigilance. Fumo, on the other hand, came over with a curious face, circled around Hyojin a few times, and asked, "I heard that the rain just now was caused by the fight between you and the Kumo clan over there, is this true?" Without waiting for Hyojin to answer, Fumo's two teammates pulled Fumo far away, looking at Hyojin's eyes full of fear. Hyojin smiled indifferently, and then casually found a place to sit down. Obviously, his performance in this second exam has attracted a lot of people's attention, and among the candidates, he has become the image of the villain Big Boss. The second update is here, asking for recommendation votes, monthly vote. In addition, thank you to the students who gave gifts today. Thank you everyone. Chapter 979. As time passed, some examinees arrived at the central sentry tower and completed the second round of the exam. After Hyojin's team, the first to arrive were Sand Crypsis's Hanju, Kankuro, and Z Luo. When Ningxi rushed over to support Naruto and Sasuke, Xiaoli and Tian fought 2 against 3 and were eventually defeated, losing the scrolls. After gathering a pair of Heaven and Earth scrolls, the 3 from Sand Crypsis did not take the risk to continue attacking other examinee teams in the Forest of Death. Instead, they went straight to the central sentry tower. Following that, Naruto, Sasuke, Sakura, and Ningxi also rushed to the central sentry tower. Because Sasuke had won an Earth Scroll when he fought against Sound Ninja Tsutomu, Onamaru, and Duoyuya, their team was fortunate enough to gather a pair of Heaven and Earth Scrolls and pass the exam. As Ningxi was separated from his companions and did not manage to gather a pair of Heaven and Earth Scrolls, he was eliminated. In the resting area, when Naruto saw Hyojin sitting calmly in the corner, he strode over under the gaze of all the examinees in the resting area and said, "Kirin, I lost previously, but I'll definitely defeat you." Hyojin glanced at Naruto and said calmly, "I'll be waiting." Sakura quickly pulled Naruto away and observed the other examinees in the resting area. It was only then that she realized that her team was the first to pass the exam, Mai's team. Sasuke sat alone at the side, looking unapproachable. However, the redness and swelling on his face had not completely subsided, and he seemed to be in a trance. Coupled with his gloomy and cold expression, he looked strangely comical. He was using his unfocused gaze to scan the surroundings, as if he was looking for someone in the resting area. Rumble, suddenly, a series of rumbles came from afar. It was obvious that the battle in the Forest of Death was still ongoing. The cheerful Fu asked everyone in the resting area, "How many teams do you think will pass the exam?" Shoju smiled. Even in the most ideal situation, only 12 out of the 24 teams will pass the exam, but we all know that this is impossible. There are already 5 teams here, so I'm guessing that no more than 3 teams will pass the exam. Hearing Shoju's analysis, many people in the resting area nodded. Samui of Kumo Village glanced at Kuroto and said, "Dedail of Rock Village hasn't arrived yet. With his strength, it shouldn't be difficult for him to pass this exam, so his team should be counted as a team." Mizukage, who was sitting beside Kuroto, chimed in, "Also, the 2 guys from the Sound Ninja are also ridiculously strong. Passing the exam shouldn't be a problem." Hearing Shueiwa mention Ninja of Sound, Sasuke's eyebrows rose, and his gloomy face became gloomy. Naruto nodded and said, "Well, Kimimaro is very powerful, and the guy who uses ice is also very strong. Their team will definitely pass the exam." Shueiwa curled her lips and said, "Idiot, that is called ice release. It is the blood limit of our Mist Village, and Kimimaro's bone vein is also the blood limit of our Mist Village." Naruto wondered, "But aren't those guys ninjas from the Ninja of Sound Village?" Shueiwa opened her mouth, but she didn't know how to explain to Naruto. Fu raised her hand and said, "One from Rock Village, one from Ninja of Sound Village, then who is the third team that might pass the exam?" While everyone was analyzing, Sasuke, who had been silent all this time, said with killing intent, "It's the ninja of grass." Soon it was evening. Asuma came to the rest area and said to everyone, "The second exam is over, everyone, come with me." "It's over?" Naruto was a little surprised and quickly asked, "Asuma, sensei, what about the other candidates? It can't be that only our team passed the exam, right?" Everyone also looked at Asuma, waiting for his answer, especially Sasuke. His eyes were unusually eager. Asuma didn't explain much. "Come with me first." It didn't take long for everyone to follow Asuma to an indoor practice field. In the practice field, everyone found that the high-level members of the 5 great ninja villages, including the Kage, were all gathered here, and in addition to the high-level members of the village, there was also a team of candidates, which is Dedale's team. It wasn't until this moment that everyone knew that Dedale eliminated all the other teams and became the last team to pass the exam after their 5 teams. As a result, among the 6 teams that advanced, there was 1 team from each of the 5 great ninja villages, and the remaining team was Takaganobu, while the candidates from Kusanobu and Sound villages were all eliminated. After learning this news, Sasuke's face was full of disbelief at first, then gradually became blank, and then a strong unwillingness surged in his heart. Kimimaro and that damn Kusanobu, how could they lose? How could they lose? Damn, they should have been defeated by me. Sasuke's hands clenched tightly into fists, and even his breathing became rapid. Kimimaro and Kusanobu, who gave him great humiliation, were eliminated, which made him, who has been looking forward to revenge in the next exam, feel extremely uncomfortable. Whoosh! At this time, Kakashi landed beside Sasuke and pressed his hand on Sasuke's shoulder. Sasuke slowly raised his head and said, "Kakashi, sensei." Kakashi said calmly, "Don't make it difficult for yourself, your performance is already very good." As the only team that advanced in Mai, Sasuke and Naruto barely saved Mai's face, so Kakashi's words weren't just to comfort him, they were sincere. Sasuke asked unwillingly, "Kimimaro, and that Kusanobu, how could they be eliminated?" Kakashi shook his head and said, "No, they weren't eliminated. Kimimaro of the Sound Village forfeited due to physical reasons, and the Kusanobu who injured you also forfeited because his teammate was injured by another team." Sasuke was stunned and said, "What, they forfeited?" Kakashi looked at Dedale not far away and said, "Although it's a bit strange, they weren't eliminated by Dedale." Sakura came over and asked, "Kakashi-sensei, what about Ino, Zyuen, and Hinata?" Naruto also asked, "Shikamaru-sensei, what about Ya and the others?" Kakashi sighed. When Shikamaru proposed to forfeit, the 3 teams gathered a pair of Heaven and Earth scrolls and prepared to let one team avoid fighting and rush to the central sentry tower to pass the exam. But at this time, they happened to encounter Dedale's team. The 3 teams were all defeated by Dedale, Kuroto, and Akatsuki, and the 3 scrolls on them were all taken away. It could be said that the biggest loser of the second exam was Konoha. Out of the 11 teams, only 1 had advanced. I'm asking for recommendation votes and monthly votes. Chapter 980. On the high platform, while the candidates were chatting with each other, the elders of the major villages were also chatting. The intensity of today's second exam was far beyond the expectations of the elders of the various villages, which surprised and delighted them at the same time. Because the emergence of a rising star not only means that the 5 great shinobi villages have successors, but it also means that the strength of the 5 great shinobi villages is continuously increasing, which is undoubtedly a good thing at a time when the threat of the Akatsuki organization is growing. However, the estrangement between them still exists. Under the premise of cooperation against the Akatsuki organization, the private struggles between the various villages have not stopped. For example, the 3 generations of Tsuchikage has been inquiring about the Cloud Druid, wanting to know more about the rising star of the Mist Village, who has mastered the Black Lightning and Mist Release. and after the 4 generations of Tsuchikage learned that the Mist Kirin possesses the Mist Release Kekii Genkai, he repeatedly pressured the Mizukage of 4 generations of Tsuchikage to find out the identity of the Kirin. After all, whether it is the Mist Release Kekii Genkai or the Lightning Attribute Chakra, both are originally monopolized by the Cloud Village. But now with the appearance of the Kirin, these secret techniques and Kekii Genkai that are related to the core inheritance of the Cloud Village have suddenly fallen into the hands of the Mist Village, which is really difficult for the Cloud Village to accept. And it's not just these few villages. When I learned that a candidate named Zira from the Sand Crypsis has created a secret technique called the 7 Days Call and was evenly matched with Xiaoli, the elder in charge of intelligence gathering, Zhuan Shaochun, also inquired the 4 generations of Kazakage. The power of the Hashiman Inner Gate is well known to the elders of the Mai clan. During the Third Shinobi War, Dai, as a genin of the Mai clan, used the Hashiman Inner Gate to fight against the Mist 7 swordsmen, who had an average strength of an elite jonin. With the identity of Konoha's genin shinobi, he killed 4 of them and the other 3 escaped, which almost caused the Mist Village's 7 swordsmen to be eliminated from the shinobi world. Since then, the Mist Village has never been able to gather another 7 swordsmen. And the 7 Days Call of the Sand Crypsis has shown a momentum comparable to the Hashiman Inner Gate. Although its potential hasn't been further confirmed, I can't turn a blind eye to it. In addition to testing each other, the 5 villages also began to pay attention to the Sound Village, which they didn't pay much attention to before. This is because the performance of the Sound Village this time was too dazzling, especially Kimimaro and Haku. Both of them showed the potential of a Kage, which made the other 5 villages envious. Such a genius, even in the 5 great shinobi villages, would be heavily nurtured as a Kage or an elder level of cultivation. Not only that, but the Sound Village seems to have mastered some kind of secret technique that allows them to change their forms. Among the 6 Sound Ninja candidates, Kimimon, Uzumaki, Onokadamaru, and Toyo all activated this special state one after another, and then their speed, strength, and even chakra's amount all greatly improve. Excellent talents that even the 5 villages are jealous of, as well as strange and powerful secret techniques, all came from a small village that had just been established, which made the 5 villages feel puzzled. As the host, when Konoha learned that Kimimaro was sick, it directly sent the most powerful medical ninja in the shinobi world, Tsunade, to treat him while inquiring about the secret of the Sound Village. Especially the secret technique that allows them to change their forms, even Tsunade was interested in it. Of course, Tsunade doesn't know about this secret technique of the Sound Village. In fact, she has already dealt with it a long time ago. She was responsible for treating Red Bean, who was infused with the Heavenly Seal by Orochimaru. But for the sake of Red Bean's safety, she applied a sealing technique on Red Bean's Heavenly Seal, and Red Bean never tried to use the power of the Heavenly Seal, so Red Bean didn't know that Kimimon and the others were using the Heavenly Seal developed by Orochimaru. After a while, Asuma, the chief examiner for the second round of the exam, walked up to the stage and announced to the candidates below, "The third round of the exam will be held in 7 days, and the great names of the 5 countries will also be present." Hearing that the daimyo of the 5 major countries would attend the third exam, there was a big commotion among the candidates. After raising his hands to signal the examinees to be quiet, Asuma said, "Because the famous names will be attending, in order to control the length of the third round of examination, we will now add a competition at the last minute. The winner will obtain the precious slot to participate in the third round of examination 7 days later." Hearing that there was a competition, many candidates became nervous, especially people like Sasuke, who had consumed a lot of energy and hadn't recovered yet. Their faces were full of apprehension. Asuma continued, "For the sake of safety, dangerous ninjutsu and secret techniques are prohibited in this competition." Dedail asked, "What kind of ninjutsu is considered dangerous?" Asuma replied snappily, Dust release is a dangerous ninjutsu. Heh. Deadale chuckled and didn't ask anymore. The list of matches will be displayed there. After pointing to an electronic monitor on the wall in the distance, Asma said, "The list is completely random. I wish everyone good luck." As soon as Asma's voice fell, the list of matches began to flash on the monitor. The candidates looked over and saw the constantly flashing list of matches on the monitor. Finally, it locked onto the names of Maelstrom, Naruto, and Xiang Lin. Deadale smiled and said, "There's a good show to watch." Druid's eyes also focused as he looked at Xiang Lin. Because the monitor was damaged, Xiang Lin's battle wasn't captured by the monitoring room. But Deadale and Druid were very clear that Xiang Lin, who was next to Kirin in the mist, was far stronger than he looked. Moreover, Druid knew that Xiang Lin seemed to be a very powerful medical ninja. Kirin's previous injuries were more serious than his, but Xiang Lin arrived and healed Kirin in a moment. However, just as everyone was looking forward to a big battle, Xiang Lin suddenly said, "I'm sorry, but I forfeit." Naruto, who was preparing to show off his skills, was confused. Asma was also startled and immediately announced, "The first match, Maelstrom Naruto wins." Following Xiang Lin's forfeit, the next few matches also directly forfeited. For example, in the second match, Sammy, who was fighting against Hyojin, didn't even fight and directly forfeited. In the fourth match, Sakura, who was fighting against Deadale, also chose to forfeit. In the competition, the injured Sasuke managed to defeat Kankuro with much difficulty after receiving a few new injuries. Darui defeated Akatsuki, Hope lost to Fu, Hei defeated Takanabu's Toki, Zila easily defeated Takanabu's Koen, and Mizukage and Temari tied. As a result, among the 18 candidates from the 6 teams, Maelstrom Naruto, Hyojin, Deadale, Sasuke, Druid, Fu, Heitu, Ji Luo, as well as Shueiyue and Shoju, who were finally given an exception, successfully advanced to the third test. Here's the second update, asking for recommendation votes and monthly votes. Also, I would like to thank the students who gifted me today. Thank you. Chapter 981. Looking at the 10 candidates who advanced in front of them, the senior members of the shinobi village were quite satisfied. These 10 people almost represent the new generation of the entire shinobi world. They are the future of each shinobi village. Many of them will inevitably become the senior members of their respective villages in the future, and even the Kage. 3 generations, Naruto said at this time. Let the candidates go and rest, they are also very tired after a day of fighting. Itachi, who was disguised as Suijin, nodded and then, as the 5th Hokage, announced to all the candidates present that the second round of the Chunin exam was officially over, and all the candidates were dismissed and reorganized. Swish, at this moment, Ebisu, who was holding a report in his hand, landed on the high platform. After handing the report to 3 generations Naruto, Ebisu said, 3 generations, Sama, the losses in the Forest of Death have been calculated. Here is the list, please have a look. Listening to Ebisu's words, the senior members of the shinobi village all looked at him. 3 generations who took the statistical report glanced at it slightly, and immediately his face stiffened and questioned. 1 billion? How can there be such a big loss? Ebisu glanced at the senior members of the shinobi village, and deliberately coughed twice, and then explained loudly. According to the statistics of the Umbu and the shinobi school instructors, 68% of the area in the Forest of Death has been destroyed. More than 80% of the monitoring facilities were destroyed, and the internal buildings and the perception barrier on the edge were also damaged to varying degrees. Staring at the statistical report, 3 generations fell into silence. After a day of fighting, the Forest of Death almost changed. Not only were various facilities seriously damaged, but the animals and plants in the forest were also hit unprecedentedly, and the entire ecosystem was completely destroyed. Apart from the loss of equipment, the recovery of animals and plants, and the restoration of the ecosystem is the real problem, and this is not even a problem that can be solved with money. After all, the current Mai no longer has the wood release ninja. This kind of problem can be solved by a ninjutsu when the first generation was still here, but now it must be solved with hundreds of millions of funds, and a lot of manpower and time costs. At this time, the 3 generations silently gave Ebisu a look. Kabisu immediately said loudly, "According to our statistics, the battle between the hidden mist Kirin and the hidden cloud druid, as well as Rock Village's Dedale's unrestrained use of detonating clay during the exam, are the main reasons for the Forest of Death's destruction." The 3 generations looked at Tsuchikage, Mizukage, Leiying, and Kazekage and said, "Everyone, this Chunin exam is jointly held by our 5 great ninja villages, so the maintenance cost of the venue should naturally be borne by us 5 great ninja villages, not to mention the situation of today's exam. So this maintenance cost, without waiting for 3 generations Naruto to finish his words, 3 generations Inoki smiled and said, "I'm really sorry, our rock village is still under reconstruction, so we can't help you. Next time, next time." With that, 3 generations Inoki directly used heavy rock jutsu and flew away in front of everyone's eyes. Even with 3 generations Naruto's calm, he didn't expect that 3 generations Tsuchikage could do this. After a while, he turned his eyes to 4 generations Leiying. That battle was obviously provoked by the Kirin of the Mist Village. The other side took the initiative to find the druid, so the main responsibility is the Mist Village. How much the Mist Village compensate, we will compensate. After leaving a sentence, 4 generations Leiying left. 3 generations Naruto had to look at 4 generations Mizukage Yagura. At this time, Mei, who was standing behind Yagura, stood up and said with a bitter smile, "3 generations Naruto, the situation of our Mist Village, I must be clear about it. Although the previous turmoil has subsided, the village has been greatly damaged, and the financial has fallen into deficit. In addition, your village's traitorous Danzo made a mess in our water country, killed dozens of our ninjas, and destroyed one of our military bases. So, as soon as the Mist Village mentioned Danzo, 3 generations immediately swallowed back their words. Zhuan Xiao Chun also turned his head to the side in embarrassment. "I'm sorry." After bowing to Mai and the others, 4 generations Mizukage Yagura didn't stay and hurriedly left with Mei and Aojirai. What he was most afraid to hear now was money-related. In the blink of an eye, Tsuchikage, Leiying, and Mizukage all slipped away. 3 generations Naruto had to look at 4 generations Kazekage. 4 generations Kazekage took the initiative to come over, seriously looked at the loss report and sighed. "Sigh, this report didn't mention the candidates of our Sand Crypsis, it's really shameful." While sighing, Yondaime Kazekage left with his guards. As a result, only 3 generations Naruto, Zhuan Xiao Chun, Ebisu, and Itachi, who disguised as Hyojin, were left on the high platform. After a while, Zhuan Xiao Chun said angrily, "These shameless guys, we shouldn't have had any expectations from them." 3 generations Naruto held his forehead with his hand. "It seems that the cost of rebuilding the Forest of Death can only be borne by us." Zhuan Xiao Chun immediately said, "Don't mention 1 billion, even 500 million, the village can't afford it now. Mai is indeed the village with the best geographical location and the wealthiest among the 5 great shinobi villages. Otherwise, it would be impossible for a mere advisory elder of the Danzo to support so many experiments and raise so many subordinates. It's just that after a series of vicious events, such as the destruction of the village and the betrayal of the Danzo, Mai's finances have long been in trouble. For this reason, even the reconstruction of the first, second, 3 generations, and 4 generations Naruto Rock, which was unanimously approved by the advisory elder group, was temporarily put on hold. Therefore, the village really can't afford the high reconstruction cost. 3 generations said to Itachi, who disguised as Hyojin, "Kuroto, The Forest of Death is at the edge of the village. It's an important node of our defense. Reconstruction is urgent. Itachi nodded immediately. He knows that 3 generations is right. For the safety of the village, the defense and monitoring of the Forest of Death must be rebuilt immediately. 3 generations continued. At present, the village can't afford this amount of money, so it seems that we, the senior leaders, need to make some sacrifices. At least, we need to restore the perception barrier outside the Forest of Death and the internal monitoring system. Itachi was puzzled. Sacrifice? 3 generations nodded and said, I propose that starting from this Naruto, all the senior leaders, including our advisory elder group, cancel all the salaries and subsidies for this year. Almost without hesitation, Itachi nodded. That's what we should do. In his opinion, Naruto should sacrifice for the village, and he was sure that if Hyojin was here, he would not hesitate to agree to take out his salary and subsidies to support the village. I'm asking for recommendation votes and monthly votes. Chapter 982. Seeing that Itachi, who pretended to be Hyojin, agreed so readily, the 3 generations narrowed their eyes slightly, and they swallowed all the words that they were about to continue to persuade him, and a trace of doubt flashed in their eyes. But soon the doubts in the 3 generations' eyes disappeared, and they said as usual, I'm afraid that just the salary and subsidies that we offer are not enough. You haven't spent the 100 million from last time, right? Itachi pondered and didn't answer immediately. Even as experienced as the 3 generations, the subtle changes in the expressions on their faces couldn't escape his insight, so he immediately noticed that the 3 generations were suspicious of him. Where did I reveal the flaw? As Itachi pondered, he could not figure it out. In order to pretend to be Hyojin, he really put in a lot of effort, not to mention the most basic expressions and gestures. Even the words and sentences he spoke were very close to Hyojin's habit. And after recalling the conversation just now, he found that the entire conversation just now was normal. There was neither a topic involving the secrets of the village, nor did it talk about Hyojin's privacy. Such an ordinary conversation shouldn't have the possibility of being exposed. But the 3 generations were obviously suspicious, which made it a little difficult for him to understand. Is it a secret word to cancel the salary and subsidies? But Senpai didn't mention it to me. The more Itachi analyzed, the more confused he was. He always felt that something was wrong, but he couldn't figure out what was wrong. Seeing that Itachi didn't speak for a long time, the doubts in the eyes of the 3 generations faded a little, and they smiled casually. I don't mean anything else. If you don't want to, I can understand. Test, this must be a test. Itachi's heart skipped a beat, and he quickly analyzed how Kuroda would answer such a question. In his mind, Hyojin is a person who dared to create an organization that bears all the hatred in order to maintain the stability of the village and to reconcile with Uchiha. He is a Mai ninja who dared to fight against the leader of the Akatsuki who possessed the Rinnegan. He is a Naruto who doesn't discriminate against all the villagers including Uchiha. I'm really stupid. Isn't it obvious what choice Senior will make? After secretly mocking himself, Itachi met the eyes of the 3 generations and said, If the village needs me, I will do my best. 3 generations chuckled. That's great. Our advisory group of elders will also do our best to raise funds. After discussing the issue of raising funds, Itachi bade farewell and left the training ground. After Itachi left, the doubts in the eyes of the 3 generations immediately returned. Seeing this, Zhuan Xiaochun asked, What's wrong? Frowning, the 3 generations said slowly, I don't know, but I always feel that there is something wrong with Kuroda. Something wrong? Startled, Zhuan Xiaochun asked, How come I don't see it? Because of the incident where the Akatsuki used genjutsu to control the Mizukage, all the major shinobi villages pay great attention to the identity of the high-level members, and Ryomai chakra can't be disguised, so Zhuan Xiaochun didn't doubt Itachi's identity. 3 generations said, "Don't you think it strange that he is willing to take out the previous 100 million? In the beginning, for that 100 million, he bargained with me for a long time, and even threatened me to give the position of Naruto to Uchiha Fuyue." Zhuan Shao-chun pondered for a moment and said, "It's indeed a bit strange, but today is different from the past. After all, he is now Naruto, so it's normal for him to have some changes in his thinking." Sandaime-sama clasped his hands behind his back and shook his head. "No, he looks too much like Hokage. Itachi obviously doesn't understand that the reason why he revealed a flaw is not because of any other reason, but because he is too similar to Naruto. My hospital." After finishing the examination of Kimimara's body, Tsunade left the ward with a frown. At this time, Haku and Yugo, who have been waiting outside the ward, greeted Tsunade and asked, "Tsunade-sama, how is Kimimaro?" Jiraiya, who was also waiting outside the ward, smiled and said, "Hee, you can rest assured, Tsunade is currently the best medical ninja in the shinobi world. With her help, your companion's illness will definitely be fine." Tsunade shook her head and said, "I have injected him with painkillers, and the condition is temporarily under control, but I don't have any clue how to completely solve this disease." "Even you can't do anything?" Haku and Yugo immediately showed a disappointed expression. Jiraiya was also quite surprised. "Tsunade, even you can't do anything about that child's illness?" Tsunade explained, "He is not suffering from an ordinary disease, but a malignant disease rooted in the bone marrow and blood. If I'm not wrong, this disease is likely related to his Kekii Genkai. It's a kind of Kekii Genkai disease." "Kekii Genkai disease?" Jiraiya's face sank and said, "This is troublesome. For a Kekii Genkai ninja, Kekii Genkai disease is almost equivalent to cancer. Most Kekii Genkai diseases are incurable diseases, and even if a small number of Kekii Genkai can be cured, after being cured, the Kekii Genkai of the Shinobi Genkai will be greatly weakened, so those who suffer from Kekii Genkai almost never have a good ending." At this time, Tsunade asked Haku and Yugo, "I checked his body. He seems to have taken some kind of medicine to suppress Kekii Genkai disease. Was this medicine developed by your village?" Haku nodded. "Well, it was developed by my village." After getting an affirmative answer from Haku, Tsunade was surprised and said, "I didn't expect your village to have such attainments in medicine and medical ninjutsu, that kind of medicine to suppress his Kekii Genkai disease. Even our village couldn't develop it in a short time. Can you tell me who made this medicine?" Haku naturally can't say the name of Orochimaru, so he can only shake his head with an apologetic look. "I'm sorry." Tsunade also knows that it's not good to pry into the secrets of other villages, so she didn't ask any more questions, but said, "Let him stay in my hospital for observation for a while. I will find a way to cure him." "Sorry to trouble you." Haku and Yugo bowed towards Tsunade once again. Tsunade didn't say anything more, and went back to her office with Jiraiya. Seeing that no one was around, Jiraiya hurriedly asked, "You really can't cure that sound kid's disease?" Tsunade looked at Kimimara's medical report and said with a solemn expression, "My yang release chakra was inexplicably decomposed. As soon as it entered his body, there seems to be some special substance in his blood." Jiraiya asked, "What special substance?" "I'm not too sure at the moment." After shaking her head, Tsunade sighed and said, "With his physical condition, it's already incredible that he's still alive." Here's the second update, asking for recommendation votes and monthly votes. Also, thank you to the classmate who tipped today. Thank you. Chapter 983. When she was developing medical ninjutsu, Tsunade had studied many ninja corpses, many of which had Kekii Genkai, but because of various reasons, she didn't study the Kagaya clan in depth, so she didn't know much about the Kagaya clan's bone vein. Therefore, she always scoffed at all the exaggerated rumors about the Kagaya clan in the Mist World. She didn't think that the physique of the Kagaya clan was really as strong as the rumors said, that it was comparable to the Senju clan and the Uzumaki clan of the Land of Whirlpools. But after examining Kimamaro's body, she suddenly realized that her previous evaluation of the Kagaya clan seemed to be too subjective. With Kimamaro's condition, in her opinion, it was impossible for him to live until now, especially the special substance in his bone marrow and blood that could decompose her yang chakra. It was the most terrifying substance she had ever seen. His bone marrow and blood were invaded by this substance, but he can still fight like a dragon and a tiger. What kind of physique is this? In front of the facts, even the arrogant Tsunade had to admit that the Kagaya clan's physique was extraordinary. It was very likely that the Kagaya clan was the same as the Senju clan and the Uzumaki clan. Seeing that Tsunade couldn't do anything about Kimamaro's condition, Jiraiya sighed. I didn't expect such a small sound village to have so many unexpected things. Tsunade glanced at Jiraiya and asked, "What other unexpected things?" Jiraiya's expression suddenly became serious. "The boy named Haku from the Sound Village has mastered the immortal jutsu." "What?" Tsunade was taken aback. She wasn't unfamiliar with immortal jutsu, so she was very clear about the difficulty of practicing it. In the entire history of the Mai clan, only the first Naruto, and the current half-baked Jiraiya and Naruto successfully mastered it. This is indeed an incredible thing. After a pause, Jiraiya sighed. But this is the truth. That young man has already admitted it to me. After learning from the Invigilator that Haku is suspected to have mastered the spirit arts, Jiraiya hurried to the hospital and confirmed the information with Haku himself. Tsunade was puzzled and asked, "Where did he learn the immortal arts? It can't be Shiku Forest or Mount Mayaboku. Could it be? Could it be Longchi Cave?" Jiraiya shook his head. "It's not the Dragon Pit Cave." Tsunade's doubts were also one of the reasons why he rushed to the hospital to confirm it. Because in the current shinobi world, only the three Holy Lands possess the inheritance of immortal jutsu, and with the relationship between Tsunade and Shikatsu Forest, if there is a ninja who has mastered immortal jutsu in Shikatsu Forest, there is no way that Tsunade wouldn't know about it. Similarly, if there is such a ninja in Mount Mayaboku, there is no way that Jiraiya wouldn't know about it. Therefore, after receiving the information from the Invigilator, Jiraiya's first reaction was the same as Tsunade's. He suspected that Haku learned the immortal jutsu from the Ryuchi cave, and he also suspected that Haku is related to Orochimaru. But after confirming it, he found that Haku's immortal jutsu didn't come from the Ryuchi cave. Because Haku had just activated the Sage Mode in front of him, and Haku's Sage Mode was completely different from the one that Naruto learned in the Ryuchi cave. There were no changes in his eyes, no horns on his head, and no scales on his cheek. After listening to Jiraiya's explanation, Tsunade was stunned. How is this possible? That young man is a true genius. If I didn't see it with my own eyes, I wouldn't dare to believe that he's actually like an exceptional talent. He doesn't need to accumulate natural energy in advance to instantly activate immortal mode. Compared to him, I'm just... Jiraiya laughed at himself and sighed. Tsunade frowned and said, "This Sound Ninja Village is not simple." On the other side of the hospital, after receiving treatment, Sasuke walked out of the consultation room. At this time, the swelling on his face had completely disappeared, leaving only some inconspicuous bruises. When he was about to leave the hospital and go home, he saw Haku from the corner of his eyes, who was carrying a few boxes of bento to the inpatient department. His face darkened and he followed Haku. Following Haku, Sasuke arrived outside Kimamaro's ward. Huh? Isn't this the ICU? Why is Kimamaro's room here? Why is he injured so badly? Did I hit him too hard? Thinking of this, Sasuke put his hands in his pockets and walked over coolly. He asked Haku and Yugo, who were eating their bento outside Kimamaro's ward, "Is his injury okay?" "Injury?" After putting down the bento, Haku and Yugo were confused because Kimimaro wasn't injured at all. Instead, his illness had acted up. At this time, Sasuke gently pushed open the door of Kimimaro's ward. He glanced at the unconscious Kimimaro on the bed and immediately closed the door. He said to Haku and Yugo, "I really didn't expect him to be injured so badly. But don't worry, our Uchiha is the richest family in Mai. Since he was injured by me, I will pay for all the expenses for his treatment." Haku opened his mouth and wanted to explain to Sasuke that Kimimaro wasn't injured, but his blood-secondary disease had acted up. Before Haku could speak, Sasuke waved his hand and said, "Don't thank me." Haku and Yugo looked at each other. Then, Sasuke said coldly, "Now you should understand how dangerous it is to fight against our Uchiha on the battlefield. I have already said that you shouldn't have come to me." Haku thought for a while and finally said, "I am very sorry." Sasuke looked at Haku from head to toe and said, "You are also a very good opponent. Our previous battle was interrupted by someone, and we couldn't determine the winner." What a pity! Haku was not a person who cared about winning and losing, so he smiled and said, "We are not as good as you." Sasuke said coolly, "Don't be modest, your strength is enough for me to take you seriously, but in front of our Uchiha clan Sharingan, any ninjutsu is useless." Haku didn't argue and just nodded. At this moment, Itachi appeared in the corridor and said to Sasuke, "Sasuke, it's time to go home." Obviously, this is one of Itachi's shadow doppelgangers. Because the ninja school is the main unit in charge of the Chunin exam, and Itachi is the vice principal of the ninja school, so when Itachi pretended to be Hyojin, he also divided a shadow doppelganger to be responsible for the work of the vice principal of the ninja school. When he learned that Sasuke was in the hospital, he rushed to the hospital to take Sasuke home. Sasuke nodded quickly and said to Haku, "Tell Kimimaro for me to take care of his injuries. If he is not convinced, he can challenge me at any time." Haku nodded and said, "Okay." The first update is here, asking for recommendation votes, monthly votes. Chapter 984. On the way home, Sasuke wanted to say something several times but hesitated. Seeing that he was about to reach the clan's territory, he said, "Brother, I'm sorry." Itachi said without emotion, "You don't need to apologize to me, you can represent the village to advance to the third exam, this performance is already very good." But, Sasuke lowered his head with a gloomy face. He was forced into a desperate situation by Kimimaro and Haku several times during the exam. After all, Kimimaro's miserable state on the hospital bed just now made him feel much better, and his resentment towards the Sound Ninja also dissipated. But being attacked by the Kirin of the Mist Village, and being beaten by an unknown Grass Ninja made him feel uneasy. Especially the Grass Ninja who humiliated him, it made him extremely embarrassed, because only he knew that he did have the thought of begging for mercy at that time. And every time he recalled that moment when he wanted to beg for mercy, he felt ashamed, feeling that he had failed to live up to the reputation of the Uchiha clan. Among all the candidates who advanced to the third exam, he was also one of the most embarrassed ones. He didn't show the prestige that a genius of the Uchiha clan should have. The accumulation of these factors made Sasuke not feel the slightest joy of advancing to the next exam. Looking at the depressed expression of Sasuke, Itachi wanted to comfort him. Because even if Sasuke was judged by the most stringent standards, Sasuke's performance today is impeccable, but considering Hyojin's arrangement and the plan to stimulate Sasuke to use the Manjikyu Sharingan, Kuroto had to harden his heart and deliberately said, "Although it is shameful to be defeated by a Grass Ninja, but don't be too upset, I will explain it to father for you." Sasuke immediately showed his childish side and asked eagerly, "Will father forgive me?" Itachi said, "Don't worry, I will try my best to dispel father's unrealistic expectations of you." Sasuke suddenly looked depressed. Originally, he planned to defeat Deidale in the Chunin exam, inquire about Amatsukumi's information from Didale's mouth, and recapture the Manjikyu Sharingan that was stolen by Amatsukumi for his father, but he never thought that he would be defeated by a mere Kusanagi shinobi. After returning to the mansion, both his father, Fuyue, and his mother, Mikoto, deliberately revealed disappointed expressions. Sasuke, who was covered in wounds and exhausted, suppressed his emotions and returned to his room alone. Looking at Sasuke's extremely dejected and depressed back view, Mikoto faintly sighed. "Sai, are we really doing the right thing?" Fuyue crossed his arms in front of his chest, his face solemn. "As my son, this is the fate he must bear." In fact, Kuroto is also very distressed about Sasuke, but after the experience of almost exterminating his family, he understands that strength is the foundation of survival. Only by awakening Sasuke's Manjikyu Sharingan, and then obtaining the eternal Manjikyu Sharingan that will never dry up, will he be truly good to Sasuke. Mikoto sighed. "I hope that Sasuke can awaken the Manjikyu Sharingan as soon as possible." At this time, Fuyue asked Itachi, "Is there any new arrangement on the side of Godame-sama?" Itachi bowed and replied, "Naruto-sama will meet with me tonight. If there are any new instructions, I will immediately convey them to you." Fuyue nodded, and then asked, "Was Sasuke really defeated by a Kusanagi shinobi?" "In a remote practice field in my village." Kakashi slowly printed the hand seals and lightly shouted, "Rachel!" Suddenly, in a burst of ZZ sound, a dazzling electric light flashed on his right hand. Maintaining Rachel in his hand, he did not attack the target in the practice field, but stood in the same place and closed his eyes, as if he was feeling something. After a moment, he suddenly opened his eyes. At the same time, Rachel in his right hand also changed. The original blue electric light gradually became deeper, and finally turned into the same purple color as the purple lightning that Hyojin used during the day. Staring at the shining purple electric light on his right hand, Kakashi showed a happy expression. Success? But soon he restrained his happy expression, because he found that although the electric light generally turned purple, it was not completely changed. There were still a lot of ordinary blue electric light in it. It's just that the purple electric light was too strange and dazzling, so it covered the ordinary blue electric light. Phew! After gently exhaling, Kakashi removed Rachel. After witnessing the lightning battle between the Qilin and the Hidden Cloud Druid, he was greatly inspired, especially the Qilin's purple lightning and the Druid's black lightning, which let him clearly see the effect of a single attribute of chakra. It was like a guiding light that let him see the way forward. At that time, he had the urge to try, but as one of the invigilators, he not only shouldered the heavy responsibility of protecting the two pillars of Naruto and Fu, but also the responsibility of maintaining the order of the exam, so he suppressed this impulse and endured until the end of the exam. After completing the invigilator task, he immediately went to the practice field alone and explored the characteristics of a single attribute of lightning chakra. As someone with the title of copy ninja, although he doesn't have the Sharingan, but his perception of ninjutsu has not been lost, plus he has been studying the nature of a single lightning chakra, so today's experience was like dispelling the clouds and seeing the sun. He was suddenly enlightened, and with just one attempt, he successfully made a semi-finished product of violet lightning. I didn't expect to succeed so easily. Kakashi was also a little surprised, and he even faintly felt that he was lucky. However, it was not luck that made him achieve this. Just like Hyojin, who controlled the Thunder Release clone, he was only one step away from mastering the characteristics of a single attribute of lightning chakra. So when Hyojin saw the druid using black lightning, he immediately succeeded in exploring purple lightning. And when he saw the druid's black lightning and Hyojin's purple lightning, he instantly broke through the layer of window paper and found the secret to using purple lightning. How do I explain this? Kakashi did not rejoice for long as he fell into deep thought. Whether it is the black lightning of the Cloud Druid or the purple lightning of the Kirin, both are obviously secret techniques of their respective villages, so for a while, he really doesn't know how to explain to Kirin that he has mastered the purple lightning. I can't say that I figured it out on my own, can I? I'm afraid no one would believe such a stupid thing. After a pause, Kakashi said, I have to find a way to get the Kirin's forgiveness. Because he was indeed inspired by someone else to understand purple lightning, Kakashi felt guilty and began to think about how to explain to the Kirin, the creator of purple lightning. After all, this was a critical moment for the 5 great ninja villages to unite against the Akatsuki organization, and he had to avoid all internal conflicts. Here's the second update, asking for recommendation votes and monthly votes. Also, thank you to the students who gave me gifts today. Chapter 985. Late at night, Hyojin's home. Holding a teacup, Hyojin took a sip of tea while listening to Itachi's report leisurely. Although he participated in the Chunin exam as the Kirin of the Mist, he is only a candidate, and his grasp of the whole exam is very limited. In order to control the situation in real time, he left a shadow clone to act as the Kirin of the Mist in the guest house where the candidates were temporarily staying, and he changed back to his release body. Senpai, today's Chunin exam is roughly like this. After a pause, Itachi continued to report. At present, the advisory elder group unanimously believes that Kimimaro of the Sound Ninja, Haku, Druid of the Cloud Village, Deadale of the Rock Village, Violet of the Sand Crypsis, and Kirin of the Mist Village are worthy of attention. Hyojin nodded lightly. These people who were selected by the advisory elder group are indeed the best of the candidate. After hesitating for a moment, Itachi said, in addition, I personally think that one of the candidates from the Grass Village is also worthy of the village's attention. Then, Itachi described the process of the Grass Ninja defeating Sasuke in detail and analyzed. Although Sasuke was in a bad state at that time, and his chakra was almost exhausted, but with the help of the Sharingan, even if he faced a Jonin, Sasuke should be able to barely resist a few moves, but the other party knocked down Sasuke with only one punch, which is very abnormal. Hyojin took a sip of tea and listened quietly. Itachi continued. After the exam, I read the intelligence file of the Grass Ninja from the intelligence class, but the file shows that the other party is just a very ordinary Grass Ninja, which is obviously inconsistent with the facts. Hyojin smiled. He is actually Orochimaru in disguise. Orochimaru? Slightly taken aback, Itachi frowned. Then this time he disguised to participate in the Chunin exam and attack Sasuke. Is it because he is targeting Sasuke? Maybe. Itachi hurriedly asked, Senior, do you need me to get rid of him? Hyojin waved his hand indifferently. Just keep an eye on him. I don't think he would dare to act recklessly in the village. Orochimaru's actions in the Chunin exam were actually a bit rash, but because there were too many candidates who performed well in the exam, no one noticed him for a while. However, because it involved Sasuke, he still entered Itachi's vision. Looking at Hyojin's expression as if everything was under his control, Itachi secretly admired him. Orochimaru managed to hide from all of us, but he couldn't escape from your insight. Sure enough, everything is under your control. Subsequently, Itachi handed the list of the losses in the Forest of Death to Hyojin and said, Senior, this is the list of the losses that the village has calculated. Please take a look. After receiving the list, Hyojin scanned through it and instinctively frowned. 1 billion. The losses are so big? Itachi nodded and said, After that, I used 6 shadow clones to carefully verify every part of the Forest of Death. The data on this list is basically consistent with the fact. Hyojin glanced at Itachi with some surprise. You've been busy for a whole day, and you still have the energy to verify this kind of thing? Itachi quickly replied, Since I'm pretending to be you, Senior, I naturally have to do my job well. Otherwise, wouldn't it affect your reputation and plan? You're really serious? Throwing the list in his hand on the table, Hyojin leisurely raised his teacup again. Although the loss of 1 billion was big, this account was counted on the village. Even if there was a headache, it should be a headache for the advisory elder group. It had nothing to do with him, the 5th-generation Naruto, who had no financial power. While drinking tea, Hyojin asked with an indifferent attitude, "The destruction of the Forest of Death is the responsibility of the candidates in each village. The other villages should share some of the bill, right?" Itachi told him about the attitude of the few shadows. Hyojin gloated. "Is that so? I'm afraid the 3 generations will have a headache." Itachi said, "Yes, the village's finances are tight. The 3 generations propose to cancel all the salaries and subsidies for you and all the elders of the advisory elder group this year." Hyojin, who was drinking tea, was stunned. He asked, You agreed?" Itachi nodded. "Yes. A whole year's salary. Damn it." Hyojin's expression did not change, but he cursed in his heart. Naruto's salary and subsidies for a year were not a small amount. It was basically equivalent to the salary of a jonin who took on missions all year round. However, thinking that as long as he swept the 3rd round of the exam, he would be able to get a generous reward that might exceed 100 million from the casino, his heart that was aching slightly felt better. Seeing that Hyojin's expression did not change, Itachi immediately thought to himself, as expected, "Why would Senior care about that small amount of salary? It seems that I've really thought too much." When Itachi analyzed why the 3 generations were suspicious of him, he also wondered if he had made a mistake in answering the question about the salary, which caused the 3 generations to be suspicious. However, now that he saw that Hyojin did not care about the salary, he decided to give the 3 generations a positive answer. Just as Hyojin was still secretly unhappy about being tricked by the 3 generations, Itachi continued to say calmly, "The 3 generations also mentioned your 100 million. Considering that the Forest of Death is related to the village's defense, I gave the 3 generations a positive answer." Hyojin spat out a mouthful of tea. Itachi hurriedly asked, "Senior, what's wrong with you?" Cough cough. Waving his hand, Hyojin coughed lightly and said, "It's nothing. I accidentally choked." After giving a perfunctory reply, Hyojin secretly groaned. He really did not expect the 3 generations to be so ruthless. When he thought about how he not only had to contribute Naruto's salary and allowance, but he also had to spit out the 100 million that he had swallowed when he was Naruto, he immediately lost his composure. He quickly picked up the list of losses that he had casually thrown on the table and started to study it. Itachi asked, "Senior, are you worried about the money? Do you think I'm someone who cares about money?" Suddenly thinking of a good idea, Hyojin smiled and immediately asked, "By the way, what level of wood escape can you perform now?" Itachi thought about it and said, "Although the adaptation period has passed and my ocular power has recovered, the development of wood escape is still not very smooth. At the moment, I can only drive wooden piles. However, Brother Jishui's development of wood escape is better than Shinichi and I. He can already perform some of the more complicated wood escape now." "Is that so?" Hyojin touched his chin. He suddenly felt that rebuilding the Forest of Death might not be a loss-making business. Anyway, he had a few would escape ninjas under him. It would be a waste not to use them. If he really contracted the project, he might even be able to earn a sum of monies. I'm asking for recommendation votes and monthly votes. Chapter 986. The destruction of the Forest of Death was mainly due to the destruction of the ecosystem. As long as the trees in the Forest of Death were restored, it would only be a matter of time before the ecosystem was restored. Although Jishui, Shinichi, and Itachi did not have the immortal body of the Thousand Hand Clan and could not easily create a large forest with a single ninjutsu like the first generation, it was not a problem for the 3 of them to grow trees one by one. "I'll just treat it as cultivating the wood release," At this moment, Hyojin had even thought of an excuse. Because as long as the labor cost of the 3 would release ninjas was excluded, this deal would definitely be profitable. Therefore, he had already made up his mind to personally meet the 3 generations tomorrow and spar with that old fox. After thinking about how to rebuild the Forest of Death, Hyojin retracted his thoughts and turned to Itachi. I've decided to stimulate Sasuke in the 3rd exam. Itachi was delighted when he heard this. Are you confident? Hyojin nodded lightly. Today, Sasuke already showed signs of awakening the Manjikyu Sharingan, but that emotion is still a little lacking. His current ocular power is actually not weaker than when you first awakened the Manjikyu Sharingan. Itachi nodded and said, Yes, Sasuke's ocular power has increased significantly during this period of time. However, the 3rd exam will be held in 7 days. Can we make it in time? That's why I need your and your parents' cooperation. Please don't worry, the Uchiha clan will be at your disposal. After a pause, Itachi asked, Will Kirin take action this time? Hyojin nodded while explaining the specific details to Itachi. Before dawn the next day, Sasuke hurried to the training ground. Morning. Kakashi, who was already at the training ground, greeted Sasuke from afar. Sasuke hurried over. Sensei Kakashi, time is limited. Let's start now. In order to get a good result in the 3rd exam, he had made an agreement with Kakashi yesterday that he would undergo a 7-day special training before the start of the 3rd exam. Kakashi was not in a hurry to start the special training. Instead, he sized up Sasuke and asked, What happened yesterday? Sasuke was confused by Kakashi's question. Nothing happened? Nothing happened, Kakashi muttered with a puzzled expression. The reason why he was puzzled was because Sasuke's pupil power had clearly become stronger today. Even his gaze had become much sharper, so he could instinctively feel it. Sasuke impatiently urged, You can start now. I don't have time to waste on small talk. Kakashi frowned. Sasuke, don't tell me you can't even maintain the most basic composure of a ninja? Although there isn't much time, the more it is like this, the more we should calm down and focus on our training. After listening to Kakashi's words, Sasuke also realized that he was being too hasty. Seeing that Sasuke had calmed down, Kakashi asked, What do you think about the 9 opponents in the 3rd round? After thinking about it seriously, Sasuke said, The others are nothing to worry about, but Kirin from Hidden Mist, Deadale from Hidden Rock, and Druid from Hidden Cloud are a bit troublesome. Although he felt that Sasuke was a bit overconfident, Kakashi still agreed with Sasuke's judgment. These 3 are indeed the most troublesome opponents, so in this special training, we will use them as imaginary enemies. Sasuke's expression suddenly became solemn. At this time, Kakashi analyzed, Kirin of the Mist Village and Druid of the Cloud Village are both powerful ninjas who have mastered the Lightning Chakra nature transformation and possess the Mist Release Kekii limit, while Deadale of the Rock Village possesses the Explosion Release Kekii limit and the Dust Release Kekii limit. He is currently standing at the peak of the shinobi world. To be honest, these 3 are not people you can contend with right now. Sasuke's expression was cold. Sensei Kakashi, you are looking down on our Uchiha too much. Kakashi didn't care about the disrespect in Sasuke's tone and continued, I'm just saying that in a life and death fight, you are not their opponent, but in the exam, you have a chance of winning. What do you mean? In the 3rd exam, the daimyo of the 5 major countries will be present. At that time, the village will definitely impose restrictions on the candidates, such as the extremely dangerous dust release ninjutsu, which is very likely to be banned. You are good at thunder release, and your chakra attribute restrains Deadale, who is good at earth attribute chakra. So as long as the tactics are used properly, you still have a chance to defeat Deadale. But Kirin from Hidden Mist and Druid from Hidden Cloud are different. Their thunder release ninjutsu are above you, so in the exam, they are a bigger threat than Deadale. So in this special training, we are not targeting others, but Kirin and Druid. After a series of analysis, Kakashi sorted out the strategy for Sasuke to deal with the enemy. Sasuke nodded thoughtfully. Then what should I do? Kakashi asked. You should have heard of Kirin's purple lightning and Druid's black lightning, right? Yes. Nodding, Sasuke said with a gloomy face. A single thunder attribute chakra attribute change. I didn't expect them to be able to do this kind of thing. At this time, Kakashi used purple lightning in front of Sasuke. Looking at the shining purple lightning in Kakashi's hand, Sasuke said in a daze, "Isn't this Kirin's purple lightning? Sensei Kakashi, how come you also know it?" After watching their battle yesterday, I figured it out on my own. This? Hearing Kakashi's explanation, Sasuke was a little speechless. This kind of thing was almost equivalent to the difficulty of developing the blood limit, but Kakashi just watched and figured it out himself. This really subverted his concept. Of course, he didn't know that the real creator of Purple Lightning was actually Kakashi himself. Hyojin's Thunder Escape clone was able to master Purple Lightning because of Kakashi's cells. Otherwise, ordinary people wouldn't have the qualifications to master Purple Lightning. Removing the Purple Lightning in his palm, Kakashi said, "Sasuke, only by mastering Purple Lightning can you compete with Kirin and Druid in the exam, and you only have 7 days." At this time, Sasuke raised the corner of his mouth and said, "Sensei Kakashi, even without Sharingan, you can still figure out Purple Lightning from your memory. I have Sharingan, your guidance, and a whole 7 days, so mastering Purple Lightning is not a difficult thing at all." Kakashi glanced at the scarlet eyes in Sasuke's eye socket. As Sasuke said, Sharingan had a unique advantage in seeing and copying ninjutsu. Therefore, with Sasuke's talent, he might really be able to quickly master Purple Lightning like Sasuke. The second update is here. It's going to be a new week soon, and the leaderboard will be updated. Therefore, I implore everyone to vote for me and support me. Also, thank you to the students who tipped today. Thank you. Chapter 987. Roar, roar, roar. The terrifying roar echoed in the valley, and from time to time, it was accompanied by a series of roars. Even the ground far away from the entrance of the valley could clearly feel the tremors. Carrying 3 moon scythe, Fei Dan asked Kakuzu curiously, "Hey, what is the leader doing in the valley?" Kakuzu said coldly, "Don't talk nonsense, our task is to be on guard." Fei Dan curled his lips and said, "Who would come to such a remote place?" Kakuzu looked at the valley in the distance that was constantly roaring and roaring. Looking at the situation, the leader is most likely practicing the newly made 6 Paths of Pain. As an old member of the organization and the chief financial officer of Nagato, he vaguely knew what Nagato was doing. Fei Dan asked, "Is it the Jinchuriki we caught?" Kakuzu nodded slightly. "Yes, only the leader's Rinnegan can suppress so many Jinchuriki at the same time." Fei Dan smiled. "After this batch of 6 Paths of Pain is completed, is there a big operation?" Rumble, suddenly, a dazzling light flashed above the valley in the distance. Immediately after, a loud explosion swept towards the entrance of the valley along with a huge wave of air. Both Jiao Do and Fei Duan raised their arms to protect their faces from the sand and dust blowing in their faces. Looking through the gaps between their fingers, they suddenly found that a large part of the rock wall in the distance had collapsed, and a huge gap had appeared, and a tumbling mushroom cloud was slowly forming over the valley. Jade Tail Beast. In an instant, this word flashed through their minds. Because it was difficult for ordinary ninjutsu to have such power, and only Jade Tail Beast could easily achieve this level of destroying the mountain and changing the terrain. Boom! Not long after, there was a second explosion in the valley, then a third and a fourth. When the smoke gradually subsided, the two found that the distant valley had completely changed. The rock walls on both sides were covered with cracks of different sizes, and it looked like it was riddled with holes. Fei Duan was shocked. "Hey, that's way too much," Kakuzu said. "There's nothing strange about it." Fei Duan was speechless. "I'm really curious now. How strong is Yama from God's organization? Even with leader's terrifying strength, you don't have full confidence in defeating him." In the valley, compared to the outside, the valley was still filled with smoke and dust at the moment, and in the flying smoke and dust, 6 figures lined up in a row, wearing the conspicuous red cloud uniform of the Akatsuki organization. Each of them had a cold expression, and in their eye sockets were all circles of light purple Rinnegan. Without a doubt, these 6 figures were Nagato's latest batch of 6 Paths of Pain. Apart from the Heavenly Tao, the other 5 Taos had all been changed. They were the Beast Tao, which was made from the 2-tailed Jinchuriki, and Mu-Ren, the Hell Tao, which was made from the 4-tailed Jinchuriki, the Azura Tao, which was made from the 5-tailed Jinchuriki, the Human Tao, which was made from the 6-tailed Jinchuriki, and the Hungry Ghost Tao, which was made from the 8-tailed Jinchuriki, Chilabai. Unlike the Heavenly Tao, the other 5 Taos made from the Jinchuriki were not cold corpses. If you look closely, you will find that these Jinchuriki that were made into the 6 Paths of Pain had ruddy skin, and their chests were still moving up and down, and their mouths and noses were breathing. They were all living people. Swish, at this time, 2 figures fell from the sky and landed in the valley. They were none other than the masters of the 6 Paths of Pain, Nagato and Konan. Coming to the side of the 6 Paths of Pain, Nagato's eyes swept from the 6 Paths of Pain to each of them, and finally fell on the Hungry Ghost Tao, which was made from the 8-tailed Jinchuriki, and slowly frowned. Just now, he tried to control the 5 Jinchuriki to enter the tailed beast form and release the jade-tailed beast. Among them, Mu-Ren's Animal Tao, Old Purple's Hell Tao, Han's Azura Tao, and Yu Gao's Human Tao were all successful. Only Chilabai's Hungry Ghost Tao did not succeed. So in Kakudu outside the valley, Fei Duan and the others only heard 4 explosions. Konan came over and asked, "Is there a problem with Sasori's transformation of the Hungry Ghost Tao?" Nagato shook his head. "No, it's the problem with the 8-tailed Jinchuriki. The 2-tailed Jinchuriki, Mu-Ren, had been controlled by illusions for a long time, and his willpower was already very weak. The 4-tailed Jinchuriki, the 5-tailed Jinchuriki, Han, and Yu Gao were all ordinary people who did not understand the tailed beasts in their bodies, so it was very easy to control them. In contrast, Chilabai, the 8-tailed Jinchuriki, was not only the strongest, but also the one who had the closest relationship with the tailed beasts in his body, so his will to resist was also the strongest among the 5. Konan walked in front of Chilabai and looked at Chilabai, who was made into the Hungry Ghost Tao, and asked, "Is the problem serious?" Nagato retracted his gaze and said lightly, "It's just a small problem. The Rinnegan naturally has the ability to suppress the tailed beast. In the original world, after 4 battles, Sasuke, who only had 1 Rinnegan, controlled 8-tailed beasts in an instant with just 1 look, making the tailed beast's chakra's battery in his battle with Naruto. In this world, Nagato, who bears both the Rinnegan and the Outer Path Golem, at the same time, has a very limited development of the Rinnegan. Because the physique of the Uzumaki clan alone cannot bear the 2 powerful forces of the Rinnegan and the Outer Path Golem, at the same time, but all of this has changed dramatically after Obsidian opened the cell research of Madara to Nagato and implanted the Hashirama cells into Nagato. The powerful physique of the Uzumaki clan and the balance of the Rinnegan on the Hashirama cells made Nagato the best fusion effect among all the ninjas transplanted with the Hashirama cells. It can be said that among all the ninjas transplanted with the Hashirama cells, he is the only one who can really surpass the Hashirama in terms of physique in theory. Other ninjas such as Obsidian, Yamato, Jishui, Itachi, Shinichi, etc., who have also transplanted the Hashirama cells, can't compare with him in the fusion and use of the Hashirama cells. And just like Jishui, Itachi and others who are gradually getting stronger. Nagato's fusion with the Hashirama cells is also continuing. His physique and pupil power are also continuously getting stronger, and the degree of improvement is far better than Jishui, Itachi and others. It is precisely because of the increasing pupil power that Nagato did not put Chilibai's resistance in his eyes. Because even if he didn't do anything, his pupil power would gradually increase to the point where it could easily crush Chilibai's resistance. At that time, in front of the absolute pupil power of the Eye of Samsara, Chilibai's resistance would undoubtedly be insignificant and powerless. First update: today is Monday, please recommend tickets, please everyone. Chapter 988. At this moment, a twisted whirlpool appeared beside Nagato, and then Obsidian walked out of the whirlpool. Glancing at the new 6 paths of pain in front of him, Obsidian asked, "How's the drill?" Nagato's tone was flat. "It's going well." "Going well?" After a pause, Obsidian confirmed. "When can it be used in actual combat?" After pondering for a while, Nagato replied, "If there is no accident, it will take about 1 to 2 months. After all, the opponent is Yama, we can't have any carelessness. In fact, as far as the effect of the drill just now is concerned, the new 6 paths of pain can already be used in actual combat. Because including Chilibai's Hungry Ghost path, all 5 Jinchuriki can smoothly enter the Tailed Beast state and put on their own Tailed Beast chakra coat. Their combat power is far beyond the previous 6 paths of pain, and coupled with their respective Rinnegan abilities, their strength is greatly improved. However, considering that the opponent this time is the most powerful organization in the shinobi world, Yama, so the actual combat standards are naturally different. According to Nagato's idea, he feels that only the new 5-6 paths of pain can be trained to the point where they can be completely liberated and become tailed beasts in their full form. Can they really be used in actual combat? The masked man nodded. 1 to 2 months, right? That's good, so I can arrange it more easily. Nagato asked, "How are the 5 great shinobi villages?" The Obito sneered. "What Chunin exam? Both Kyubi's Jinchuriki and Shikinoi's Jinchuriki are participating, but I think it's most likely a trap for us." Nagato asked again, "What about the Mizukage?" Obsidian replied, "He should also be in my. Since he got rid of my Genjutsu control, he has become extremely careful. The people we placed in the mist can't find his whereabouts at all." Muttering these 2 words, Nagato's eyes gradually focused. At this moment, Little Nan suddenly asked, "Is there any news about First Tail? It's been a few years since the Sand Crypsis executed the previous One Tail's Jinchuriki. One Tail should be resurrected at any time." Obsidian smiled and said, "Don't worry. Once the Sand Crypsis's black operation finds the resurrected One Tail in the desert, I'll be notified immediately. Don't forget, I have spies in all 5 great shinobi villages, even Mai's Naruto is my informant." Listening to Obsidian mention Naruto, Nagato asked, "Is there any news from the Hyuga clan?" Obsidian showed disdain. "Those idiots of the Hyuga clan are still offering a bounty for the whereabouts of Hyuga Aoki, so they are mostly kept in the dark by Mai and Amatsukami. Hyojin's Naruto is also the product of a compromise between Mai's Naruto clan and Uchiha clan. He has no real power, so it will be difficult to get information about Amatsukami from them." Nagato frowned. "What about the Uchiha clan?" Obsidian said, "I'm already instigating Itachi Uchiha. If it goes well, I might be able to use Itachi Uchiha to control Uchiha Jishui and Shinichi." After a moment of silence, Nagato said, "Before the final battle, we must confirm the exact location of the 3 Jinchuriki." Obsidian was full of confidence. "Don't worry, everything is under my control. In the training field of my village." Huff, huff! Sasuke half knelt on the ground, panting heavily. Drip, sweat streaked across his cheeks and dripped to the ground. "Damn it!" He gritted his teeth, but there was nothing he could do. 3 days of the 7-day special training had passed, and in these 3 days, no matter how Kakashi guided him, he could not master the essentials of purple lightning. At this time, Kakashi handed over a kettle. "Take a break first." Sasuke pushed the kettle away and said unwillingly, "Again?" Glancing at Sasuke's right arm, which was full of wounds, Kakashi shook his head and said, "Sasuke, don't mess around, your body can't bear it anymore, what you need now is rest." Sasuke roared, "I can do it." Kakashi sighed, "Maybe I was too eager, I shouldn't have let you try to practice purple lightning so early." Because he accidentally mastered purple lightning, Kakashi felt that Sasuke's talent was not below his own, and he also has the 3-tomo Sharingan, so he should be able to quickly master purple lightning like himself. However, after trying for a while, he realized that he was gravely mistaken. Although Sasuke is also good at lightning release ninjutsu, and has the Sharingan, but in the practice of purple lightning, he fell into a dilemma from the beginning, or in other words, Sasuke can't find the feeling of practicing purple lightning at all. Even with Kakashi's teaching, it was the same. Until now, Kakashi realized that he was too hasty. After all, Sasuke is only a 12-year-old boy, although he is quite talented in lightning release, but the sharpening is not enough. He has always been in a state of learning new things, and lacks a detailed understanding. Listening to Kakashi's sigh, Sasuke recalled the disappointed look of his parents and brother these days, and suddenly said angrily, "If you can learn purple lightning, then I can definitely learn it." After saying that, he didn't listen to Kakashi's dissuasion, and once again released Chidori. Isn't it just a change in the nature of a single lightning chakra? If Kirin can do it, Druid can do it, and Kakashi can do it, then I can do it as well. I am the Uchiha with the Sharingan. Sasuke secretly encouraged himself, and tried to change the nature of a single lightning attribute chakra. Looking at Sasuke, who was competing with himself, Kakashi seemed to see himself in the past. At that time, he also knew that using Chidori without the assistance of dynamic vision would be extremely dangerous, but he still rashly used Chidori in actual combat. If not for his teacher 4 generations Naruto's timely rescue, he would have most likely died in the first battle using Chidori in actual combat. Thinking of this, he thought to himself, "Why is it so easy for me to master purple lightning, but it's so difficult for Sasuke?" Kakashi would never know that purple lightning was actually a secret technique he developed after he lost his Sharingan in the original space and time, so with his cell tissue and without his cell tissue, the difficulty of cultivating purple lightning was completely different. Just as Kakashi was thinking, he suddenly noticed that the 3 Magatama on the Sharingan in Sasuke's eye sockets were spinning faster and faster. At the same time, the aura on Sasuke's body was getting colder and colder. Even in broad daylight, it gave Kakashi a chill. The second update is here. I will continue to ask for recommendation votes on Monday. Also, thank you to the students who gave gifts today. Thank you everyone. Chapter 989. Something's wrong. How come Sasuke's chakra is getting colder and colder? Because he once possessed a Manjikyu Sharingan, Kakashi's understanding of Sharingan is even deeper than that of many of the Uchiha clansmen. As the saying goes, the eyes are the window of the soul. As the embodiment of the Yin-Yang chakra, which represents the power of the soul, the Uchiha clan's Sharingan is the pupil that portrays the soul. So from Sasuke's cold eyes, Kakashi is keenly aware that something is wrong with Sasuke. Sasuke. After a little hesitation, Kakashi called out to Sasuke. Sasuke, who is practicing purple lightning, asked impatiently, "What's wrong?" Kakashi said with concern, "Relax, this is just a Chunin exam, and this time the Chunin exam is very special. Even if you lose, it's not a big deal, no one will blame you." Sasuke snorted coldly, "What do you know?" With that, Sasuke no longer paid attention to Kakashi and immersed himself in practicing purple lightning again. Opening his mouth, Kakashi finally chose to remain silent. Because Sasuke's current paranoid appearance is similar to him when he witnessed his father's suicide, so he can understand why Sasuke is unwilling to compromise himself. At this time, Kakashi carefully observed Sasuke, who is in the middle of practicing, and more confirmed that Sasuke's Sharingan's pupil power is rapidly improving. Is this what the second Bame-sama mentioned in the confidential files, that once the Uchiha clansmen are strongly stimulated, their brain will secrete a special chakra to enhance the pupil power of the Sharingan? After becoming an advisor elder and obtaining enough authority under Naruto, Kakashi has read all the information related to Sharingan in the My Archive, which naturally includes the information on the human body research conducted by second Bame-sama Naruto on the Uchiha clan. And in the research records of second Bame-sama, it is clearly mentioned that extreme emotions can stimulate the Uchiha clansmen to open the Sharingan, or promote the Uchiha clansmen to awaken a higher level of Sharingan. This makes the Uchiha clansmen like flammable and explosives, with great uncertainty. Coupled with the Sharingan's in-release chakra, the Uchiha clan naturally gives people a cold and terrifying feeling, so Madame-sama, who is mixed with his own subjective feelings, arbitrarily identified the Uchiha clan as an inherently evil clan. Kakashi thought, it's just a Chunin exam, why would it give Sasuke such a big stimulation? Maybe I should find an opportunity to ask Jishue about it? Just as Kakashi was talking about Jishue, Shinichi, and Itachi were busy planting trees in the Forest of Death. After some bargaining, Hyojin successfully got the project to rebuild the Forest of Death from the Advisor Elder Group, and immediately began the reconstruction of the Forest of Death. In order to cover up, he hired workers to purchase the mature trees around Mai and transplanted them into the Forest of Death. On the other hand, he mobilized the 3 wood-release ninjas, Jishue, Shinichi, and Itachi, to secretly start planting trees in the Forest of Death. After all, the purchase and labor costs of transplanting all the mature trees outside were too expensive. Clatter with the injection of wood chakra, a small sapling that was only more than a meter tall in front of Shinichi quickly developed, and in just a few breaths, the sapling grew into a big tree that was 1 or 2 stories high. Wood chakra can naturally accelerate the growth of trees, and because it is a growth, it is not like the water release or earth release, which uses chakra to mimic the creation of things, so even if the wood chakra is removed, the trees that have been accelerated will only wither a little, but will not dissipate or die. After using wood chakra to complete the growth of a big tree, Shinichi complained, "How long will it take for us to accelerate the growth of trees like this?" Jishue, who was also busy accelerating the growth of trees, said, "Senpai said that we should just treat it as practicing wood release. Don't we usually do the same thing in the practice field?" Itachi, who was on the side, echoed, "Well, after half a day of acceleration, I feel that my control of wood release seems to be a lot more proficient. Even after transplanting the cells of the first generation, wood release is not something that can be used casually. It needs continuous practice and development to improve the ability of wood release." Looking at Jishue and Itachi, who were enjoying it, Shinichi was speechless. On the other side of the Forest of Death, the enchantment class that was responsible for rearranging the perception barrier around the Forest of Death was also busy at the moment. Hyojin was personally watching the enchantment class while listening to Gale's report. The replacement and maintenance of the monitoring equipment is already in progress, and the maintenance personnel are supervised by Red Bean and Shien, and according to your instructions, they will never enter the tree planting area without permission. The workers that I am responsible for supervising have also gathered and can start work at any time." After saying that, Gale handed the various progress reports in his hand to Suijin. Hyojin took the reports and glanced through them. In order to ensure that the secret of forestation and false accounting would not be exposed, He replaced all the Black Ops who were in charge of monitoring the Forest of Death's reconstruction with his own shadow guard. After passing the reports back to Gale, Hyojin smiled and said, "Thank you for your hard work. Go ahead and do what you need to do." "Yes," Gale responded and disappeared on the spot. As a member of Hyojin's shadow guards, he had already been branded with Hyojin's brand, so no matter what Hyojin wanted him to do, he had to obey unconditionally, even if the task was a little strange. For example, this time, Hyojin asked him to lead the tree planting workers to pretend that there was no need to transplant trees on a large scale. After sending Gale away, Hyojin recalled the scene where he bargained with the three generations and thought of the three generations' relieved expression at the end, and he could not help but twitch his mouth. With Hyojin's shrewdness, how could he not see that the three generations were suspicious of Itachi because he had agreed too quickly? When Hyojin proposed to contract the reconstruction of the Forest of Death, the three generations were instantly relieved, and their previous suspicions were removed, and they began to bargain with him seriously. Looking at the busy enchantment squad in the distance, Kuroda put his hands behind his back and said with a sigh, "As a Sandaime shinobi, I'm really getting old. To actually have such a misunderstanding about me, am I a greedy person?" At that moment, the ward team was about to clear a big tree to set up a perception ward. Upon seeing that, Hyojin hurriedly shouted, "What are you guys doing? It's such a big tree, how can you just tear it down like that?" The ward team leader quickly answered, "Naruto-sama, the position of this big tree is right on the node. If we don't clear this big tree, the perception ward's node will be shifted, causing chakra's consumption to increase. So what if it increases? Chakra doesn't cost money, but planting trees does." Here's the first update, asking for recommendation votes and monthly votes. Chapter 990. The reconstruction of the Forest of Death is being carried out in an orderly manner day by day, and the 10 candidates who entered the third stage of the Chunin exam are also actively preparing for the next stage. Because this Chunin exam is not only related to the personal honor and disgrace of each candidate, but also involves the shinobi village behind each candidate, and even the major countries, so even the most careless Deadale was urged by the three generations Tsuchikage to prepare for the next stage. As a result, the practice field of the 10 candidates has become an important place for people from all walks of life to spy on them in the past few days. The odds of the 10 candidates in the casino are also constantly fluctuating, but the most favored one is still Deadale of the Rock Village, followed by Kirin of the Mist Village, Druid of the Cloud Village, and so on. In a secret practice field, Sasuke, who was sweating like rain, was panting while practicing Purple Lightning. 6 days of special training have passed in the blink of an eye, but Sasuke still hasn't mastered Purple Lightning, but he has no intention of giving up and is still trying. On a big tree outside the practice field, Kakashi, Jiraiya, and Tsunade stood side by side, watching Sasuke in the practice field from a distance. Looking at Sasuke, who is injured but still gritting his teeth, Tsunade, who has never had a good impression of Uchiha, couldn't help but sigh with emotion. This kid is really not simple. Jiraiya nodded approvingly. Well, good perseverance. With Sasuke's family power and talent, to be able to work hard to this extent, it is enough to show that Sasuke is really desperate. Tsunade frowned again. It's just that the aura on his body is a lot colder. I haven't felt this kind of feeling from other Uchiha. Kakashi explained. This should be due to the enhancement of his Sharingan's pupil power. Tsunade did not continue to dwell on this point. Instead, she carefully observed the injuries on Sasuke's body. She slowly said, "It seems that these are all cell damage caused by overusing the lightning escape chakra. There are also some burns from the lightning strike. It's already a little serious. I suggest that he temporarily stop cultivating and let his body recover a little." Jiraiya said, "Kakashi, your decision to let him cultivate Purple Lightning was really thoughtless." Kakashi nodded. Yes, I was too hasty. With an awkward expression, Tsunade said, Violet lightning is the secret technique of the Kirin of the Mist, and now that the 5 great shinobi villages are at a critical moment in the war against the Akatsuki organization, how do you explain to the Mist that you have mastered Violet lightning? Kakashi sighed silently. If it was in the previous era when the shinobi villages were at war with each other, secretly learning the secret techniques of other villages is not only not troublesome but also something to show off. That's how Kakashi got his title of Copy Ninja. But now that the shinobi villages are in the honeymoon period, once the matter of secretly learning secret techniques is exposed, it is bound to cause great trouble. Jiraiya smiled and said indifferently, Kakashi comprehended Violet lightning on his own, it's not like he stole the secret technique scroll. Even if the Mizukage hears this, there is nothing to be afraid of. At this time, Tsunade glanced at Kakashi and asked curiously, Did you really comprehend Violet lightning, just by watching the battle between Kirin and Druid? Kakashi shrugged helplessly. That's true. Kuroto also knows that this explanation is too unconvincing, because the difficulty of changing the nature of a single attribute of chakra is only slightly lower than developing a Kekkai Genkai. Looking at the thousands of years of history of the shinobi world, ninjas who can develop Kekkai Genkai are very rare. What an amazing talent! After sighing with emotion, Tsunade went on to say, By the way, there is already some progress on organ regeneration. Although Kakashi has lightened the burden on his body, he has also lost the insight of the Manjikyu Sharingan, so the village has been trying to find ways to make up for this. Although Tsunade is known as the #1 medical ninja in the shinobi world, she obviously can't regenerate Kakashi's left eye like Naruto, who became a 6-path shinobi in the original story, so she has been studying organ regeneration. Recently, she has made a new breakthrough in the research of organ regeneration. According to her estimation, if the In seal is released and the Hyakuho technique is fully activated, the yang chakra she has accumulated will definitely be enough to regenerate a left eye for Kakashi, but the eye is too delicate, so she still needs to make some preparations. Great! Kakashi was overjoyed. Tsunade said, Don't be happy too early, I can't guarantee success. Kakashi said sincerely, Whether you succeed or not, I want to thank you. Jiraiya smiled and said, We're all on the same side, no need to be so polite. In the eyes of the advisory elder group, Kakashi is the best candidate for the 5th Naruto, and now that Hyojin has taken the throne, they still haven't given up on cultivating Kakashi. And Kakashi didn't disappoint their trust. Not only did he master the Flying Thunder God technique that was carried forward by the 4 generations Naruto, but he also inexplicably learned the purple lightning of the Mist Kirin, and his strength has increased to another level. It can be said that Kakashi's current strength is enough to shoulder the heavy responsibility of Naruto. Therefore, as long as Kakashi's strength continues to improve, once the time is ripe in the future, the advisory elder group can support Kakashi to the position of the 6th Naruto, so that the position of Naruto will once again return to the hands of the Naruto line that has been inherited by the 4 generations. After all, in the eyes of the advisory elder group, Hyojin, the 5th Naruto, has no foundation at all. The Hyuga clan behind him, and the dispute between the main family and the branch family, can only mobilize the Shadow Guards, some teachers of the ninja school, and Jishuei as a good friend. In addition, there are no powerful subordinate. Such a Naruto, in the opinion of the advisory elder group, as long as they want, they can impeach him at any time. Of course, as long as Kuroto doesn't make any obvious mistakes, they won't easily make a move on a Hokage, because rules are rules, and if he makes a mistake or causes major losses to the village, even with the prestige of Sandaime-sama, he will still be impeached and removed from office. Just as the 3 of them were chatting, suddenly, a strange purple light flashed in the training field in the distance. Looking in the direction of the purple light, The three of them found that the source of the purple light was none other than Sasuke in the training field. Success! This change caught Kakashi, Jiraiya, and Tsunade off guard. They did not expect the injured and exhausted Sasuke to successfully master the purple lightning, and it only took him 6 days. At this moment, Sasuke, who had mastered the purple lightning, fell head first on the training field. Second update, please recommend votes, monthly votes. Today is Christmas Eve. I wish everyone a happy Christmas Eve. Chapter 991. When he opened his eyes again, Sasuke found himself lying in the hospital ward. Seeing that Sasuke had woken up, Sakura, who was beside the bed, said happily, "Sasuke, you're finally awake." Sasuke looked in the direction of the voice and found that not only Sakura, but even Naruto and Kakashi were also surrounding his bed, looking at him with concern. Without responding to Sakura's concern, Sasuke asked coldly, "How long have I been sleeping?" Sakura replied, "You've been unconscious for the entire afternoon. We were worried sick." "Only the afternoon? Fortunately, I didn't miss the exam the day after tomorrow." Relieved, Sasuke immediately propped himself up and tried to sit up from the bed. Sakura quickly went up to support him. "Sasuke, you're covered in injuries now. You'd better rest well." Kakashi also said, "Your body is almost at its limit. Lie down obediently." Forcing himself to sit up, Sasuke looked at Kakashi and said proudly, "Kakashi-sensei, I've mastered purple lightning." Kakashi nodded with a solemn expression. "I know." Naruto, who was at the side, held the back of his head with both hands and muttered in dissatisfaction, "What's purple lightning?" "Hey Kakashi-sensei, you're too biased. I've clearly advanced to the 3rd exam. Why are you only teaching Sasuke and not me?" Kakashi smiled awkwardly. In terms of feelings, Naruto, who was his sensei's orphan, was obviously closer to him. However, the inheritance of a ninja was not only based on distance, but also on compatibility. In Kakashi's eyes, Sasuke, who was talented and also good at thunder release ninjutsu, was undoubtedly more like him. Therefore, teaching Sasuke, who was the same type as him, could achieve twice the result with half the effort. On the contrary, Naruto was a completely different type from him. In addition, Hyugin's previous guidance of Naruto was effective, so he didn't want to rush into it and interfere with Hyugin's guidance of Naruto. After all, everyone's guidance method was different. Sakura punched Naruto. "What nonsense are you talking about? Sasuke is still lying on the bed." Naruto covered his head and ran away. "I'm just saying it casually. Besides, with Sasuke's strength, this little injury is nothing at all." Looking at Naruto and Sakura in the ward, Kakashi smiled and said, "Well, you two go out first. I have something to talk to Sasuke alone." "It's like this again, Naruto only had time to complain before he was dragged out of the ward by Sakura. After Naruto and Sakura left, Sasuke glanced outside the ward and asked, "Kakashi-sensei, did my family know that I fainted today? I went to the ninja school to inform your brother, but because of his busy work, your brother can't find time to come to the hospital for the time being." Kakashi answered while slightly frowning. After sending the unconscious Sasuke to the hospital, he immediately went to inform Itachi, but Itachi didn't seem to care too much after hearing the news and hasn't come to the hospital to see Sasuke until now. Listening to Kakashi's answer, Sasuke disappointedly withdrew his gaze outside the ward, and his face also became gloomy. At this time, Kakashi asked earnestly, "Sasuke, can you tell me why you care so much about this Chunin exam?" Sasuke turned his face and was silent. Staring at Sasuke, Kakashi tentatively said, "Is it because of Amatsukami?" After hearing the words Amatsukami, Sasuke's gaze turned cold, and the black pupils in his eye sockets suddenly turned scarlet. Seeing Sasuke's reaction, Kakashi knew that he guessed correctly, so he sighed, "Hey, if your goal is Amatsukami, I advise you to let it go." Sasuke's expression suddenly became grim. They hurt my father and took away my father's precious Manjikyu Sharingan. How can I let them go? Kakashi shook his head. I can understand, but you have to understand that some things can't be forced. As your instructor, I have the obligation to stop you from going down the wrong path. Sasuke hysterically said. It's not your father who was hurt. How can you understand me? Kakashi was startled for a moment, then immediately showed a bitter smile. For him who witnessed his father's suicide because of the rumors in the village, he is really qualified to understand Sasuke's words, but he didn't lower himself to Sasuke's level, and slowly said, Amatsukami is not something you can deal with. Let me tell you this, even the current Naruto of the village can't do anything to Amatsukami, so put down this obsession. What's more, whether or not Deadale of Rock Village is Amatsukami's Xidagarba or not, there is still no conclusion. Sasuke reached out to cover his eyes and said coldly, whether or not he is Amatsukami's Xidagarba or not, I will use my Sharingan to personally confirm it. Seeing Sasuke's stubbornness, and thinking of the Uchiha clan's slightly abnormal attitude towards Sasuke recently, Kakashi faintly smelled a trace of strangeness and thought to himself, is it possible that the Uchiha clan is planning something? Is it against Amatsukami? At this time, Sasuke lifted the bedsheet, turned over, and got out of the hospital bed. Kakashi frowned. What are you doing? Taking off the hospital gown, Sasuke changed his clothes and said resolutely, I want to win. And I don't have much time left, so I have to continue training. Kakashi didn't try to persuade him anymore, but put his hand on Sasuke's shoulder. Since you want to win so much, as your instructor, I can only support you. After saying that, Kakashi instantly activated Flying Thunder God technique, and brought Sasuke to a secret training ground far away from my village. Looking around, Sasuke wondered, what is this place? Kakashi explained, this is my secret training ground, far away from the village. No matter what I do, I won't be spied on or disturbed. Sasuke asked, why did you bring me here specifically? Looking up at the dusky sky, Kakashi said in a deep voice, with your current strength, it will be very difficult to defeat Deadale in the third exam. Sasuke said, but I have already mastered Purple Thunder. Although Purple Thunder is faster and more destructive than ordinary lightning release ninjutsu, it is not enough to face an opponent like Deadale. After a pause, Kakashi continued, if you want to defeat Deadale, then you must learn a ninjutsu that is not a ninjutsu. Only by learning this technique can you have some chance of winning. A ninjutsu that is not a ninjutsu? Sasuke paused and asked with a solemn expression, what ninjutsu is that? Kirin. First update. Asking for recommendation votes, monthly votes. Chapter 992. Kirin? Sasuke was confused. He didn't know why Kakashi suddenly mentioned the Kirin of the Mist Village. Kakashi said, the name of this technique is Kirin. Sasuke frowned. He had a guess in his heart. Is this technique also related to the Kirin of the Mist Village? Kakashi gently nodded. You guessed right, just like the previous Purple Lightning, this Kirin technique was also developed by the Kirin of the Mist Village. In the previous battle between Hyojin and the Druid, Kakashi not only understood the Purple Lightning, but also the technique Hyojin used to draw the natural thunder and lightning from the cloud. After that, he asked around and learned the name of this technique from the mouth of the Druid of the Cloud Village. And while guiding Sasuke to practice the Purple Lightning, he didn't stay idle. He has been exploring the Kirin technique. As everyone knows, the Mist Release Ninja is a walking storm. Because Mist Release is one of the Kekkei Genkai that can easily affect the weather, as long as the ninja of Mist Release is willing, they can use Mist Release to create a storm at any time. But when Hyojin and the Druid fought, the two Mist Release ninjas didn't waste their own chakra to directly use Mist Release to create a storm. Instead, they used mountain fire, lightning, and other relatively low-consumption methods to subtly change the weather on the battlefield, and finally used the power of nature to create a thunderstorm. And the two mist-release ninjas cleverly used the guidance of thunder and lightning, and only consumed a certain amount of chakra, and with the help of the natural thunder and lightning, they released a blow that was close to destroying the world. This battle gave Kakashi, who was watching from the sidelines, a huge shock. There was no need to doubt Kakashi's battle wisdom. Therefore, he quickly realized that if he used this technique well, even if he didn't have the mist release Kekii limit, he could still use the purple lightning to draw out the lightning in the clouds and use the Kirin, a powerful secret technique that was between ninjutsu and immortal arts. After listening to Kakashi's introduction of the Kirin spell, Sasuke clapped his hands in amazement and said, "What a wonderful idea! I didn't expect that Kirin could actually use this spell. That Chilin from the Hidden Mist sect is a true thunder evasion genius." After sighing with emotion, Kakashi continued, "And you, who are proficient in both fire and lightning release ninjutsu, are more suitable for the Kirin jutsu than most people." Sasuke suddenly understood. "That's right, my fire escape technique can create rain clouds faster and more conveniently. Just like using the spirit summoning jutsu, I can cooperate with Bunta to cast the toad oil flame bomb. As long as there is enough moisture in the air, it will be easier to create rain clouds." Kakashi continued, "Not only that, but the thunder release can also restrain Dedale's exploding clay. In the tournament, the battle area is limited. As long as you can use the Kirin spell at the right time, then you will have a chance of winning." Sasuke immediately thought about it and nodded after a moment. The Kirin spell not only has a large area of effect, but it is also extremely fast. Once the connection is completed, it can be completely released in an instant, and ordinary people simply can't avoid it. Coupled with the restraining effect of the thunder release on Dedale's exploding clay, the moment the Kirin spell is released, all of Dedale's exploding clay will be in a state of ineffectiveness. At that time, Dedale will not only be directly attacked by the Kirin spell, but he will also lose all means of counterattack and be at the mercy of others. This way, I can find an opportunity to use genjutsu to control him and inquire about Amatsukumi's intelligence. As he rehearsed the battle scene in his mind, the corners of Sasuke's mouth rose. Kakashi reminded him again, "Don't forget that your opponent in the exam isn't just Dedale. Kirin and Druid are also powerful enemies that you can't contend against. If you can grasp the Kirin spell, then you can take the initiative when they use the purple lightning spell to draw the lightning from the rain clouds and catch them unprepared." The smile on Sasuke's face became even wider. "I'm really curious. If the Kirin himself sees me using the Kirin spell, what kind of expression would he have?" Kakashi said in a deep voice, "The premise is that you can learn the Kirin spell in one day." After leaving the hospital, Naruto bid farewell to Sakura and hurriedly rushed to a practice field in the village. Ningxi, who had been waiting for a long time, crossed his arms and sternly asked, "Why are you only here now? Don't forget that you are Naruto-sama's disciple. How can you slack off at this time?" Xiaoli also said, "Yeah, youth can't be wasted." Naruto scratched his head. "I'm sorry, but I didn't mean to be lazy. Sasuke was injured while practicing, so I went to the hospital to visit him." Xiaoli asked with concern, "Is the injury serious?" Ningxi raised his eyebrows and also cast a curious gaze. Because he didn't smoothly advance to the third exam, Ningxi was especially concerned about Naruto, who had advanced to the third exam. Sasuke was even more curious when he heard that Sasuke was injured while practicing. After all, ordinary practice wouldn't cause injuries, so he could judge that Sasuke must have been practicing some unique skill. Naruto waved his hand. "Don't worry, he's fine. Let's start too." Seeing that Naruto didn't say much, Ningxi didn't ask anymore. He just nodded and said, "Then let's start." Soon Ningxi, Xiaoli, and Tian got into position and surrounded Naruto. When Naruto found out that Kakashi was carrying out special training for Sasuke, he found Hyojin and wanted Hyojin to carry out special training for him before the competition. Hyojin pondered for a while and arranged for Ningxi, Xiaoli, and Tian to carry out targeted physical training for Naruto. This wasn't because Hyojin was lazy, but because after Naruto reconciled with the 9 tails in his body, chakra had reached the level of a normal person's Jinchuri. In other words, what Naruto lacked now was no longer powerful moves or novel ninjutsu, but the careful control of chakra and the sharpening of physical skills. This was because not only could Naruto enter the tailed beast form and put on the tailed beast's coat, he could also activate the immortal mode. The same physical skills could be unleashed 10 times or even 100 times more powerful in his hands than in the hands of others. Therefore, investing energy in physical skills was a guaranteed profit for a ninja with potential like Naruto. In Ningxi's class, Ningxi's soft fist, Xiaoli's iron fist, and Tian's ninja tool throwing covered almost all aspects of physical skills. Therefore, it was undoubtedly the best choice for Hyojin to let the 3 of them train Naruto. On the other hand, Hyojin was practicing the purple lightning and mist release that he had just mastered. He also tried the lightning release chakra mode, according to the plan. Here's the second update. I wish everyone a Merry Christmas. Also, thank you to the students who gave me gifts today. Chapter 993. After dealing with the reconstruction of the Forest of Death and stimulating Sasuke to awaken his Manjikyu Sharingan, Hyojin once again asked Itachi to replace him, and he changed back to the identity of Kirin of the Mist. The successive mastery of Purple Lightning and Mist Release means that the development of his Thunder Clone is nearing the end. But this is obviously not the limit of the Thunder Clone, because above this, there is still the Thunder Chakra mode, waiting for Hyojin to overcome. Because the original standard is not very applicable now. In Hyojin's original plan, as long as he mastered the Kekii limit of his own attribute, then the clone of that attribute would be considered to have reached the standard of the Kekii fusion ceremony. However, the Fire Escape clone, Wind Escape clone, and even Earth Escape clone had all far surpassed this standard due to various reasons. The Fire Release Kekii limit mastered by the Fire clone, in addition to the main Fire attribute and the secondary Lightning attribute, in fact, it also needs to be mixed with a part of the Yin attribute chakra. Therefore, Fire Release is similar to Wood Release to a certain extent. It doesn't belong to the pure Kekii limit. The Wind clone has mastered Magnet Release and Bone Vein Kekii limit, coupled with the obvious atavism phenomenon. Its strength is high, surpassing all other clones. In addition to mastering the Explosion Release Kekii limit, the Earth clone has also mastered the Dust Release, a rare Kekii limit in the Shinobi world, and its strength is far beyond the original standard. Therefore, mastering only one Kekii limit can no longer be used as the standard for the development of the clone. After all, in the final Kekii fusion ceremony, his Yin body and the other 6 clones of other attributes need to achieve a perfect balance of Yin and Yang 5 elements. Only then will there be a chance to finally merge into one and attack the supreme Kekii net. Therefore, the strength of each clone must be very close. There can be no obvious difference. According to the strength standard of the Fire Escape Avatar, Wind Escape Avatar, and Earth Escape Avatar, Hyojin's Lightning Escape Avatar must master the Purple Lightning and Mist Escape, as well as develop the Lightning Escape Chakra mode unique to Cloud Concealment. For this reason, Hyojin did not slack off. For the past 2 days, he had been cultivating in the training ground that Mai had provided for him. As for the hidden Miss Qilin, who had mastered the Purple Lightning and Mist Escape bloodline, even if it was just ordinary practice, it was still extremely valuable to dig up information, so Mai naturally wouldn't ignore it. The ones in charge of surveillance tonight were none other than Asma and Red. Asma and Red were puzzled as they looked at the flashing lightning in the training field in the distance, as well as the ghost-like Kirin that flickered in and out of the lightning. After a while, Asma asked doubtfully, "What is he doing?" Red shook her head. If Kirin in the distance was practicing ninjutsu, then there should be a normal release of ninjutsu, but there was only flashing lightning in the training field. There was no normal release of lightning release or mist release at all. If it is practicing taijutsu, then this kind of practice is too strange. Schwar at this moment, a figure fell beside the two of them. Asma and Red turned their heads and found that the person who suddenly appeared was Kakashi, so they asked, "I haven't seen you for a few days. Why did you suddenly appear?" Kakashi exchanged a few words with the two of them, then looked at the training field in the distance. His eyes gradually became serious. Red saw this and quickly asked, "Did you see anything?" Neither she nor Asma was very good at lightning release ninjutsu, so it was easy to have errors in judgment. But Kakashi, who was good at lightning release ninjutsu and mastered the purple lightning at a glance, was different. Kakashi gently nodded and said in a deep voice, "If I'm not wrong, he is practicing the lightning release stimulation method, which stimulates the cells of the whole body through the lightning release chakra to achieve physical fitness and speed beyond the normal state." But, as he said, Kakashi's brows gradually wrinkled, his voice became smaller and smaller, and finally closed his mouth. Asma urged, "But what?" Kakashi's eyes flashed with doubt for a long time before he said, "Strange, it's too strange." Asma and Red looked at Kakashi in unison, waiting for his explanation. Kakashi immediately explained, "Using lightning release chakra to stimulate the cells of the body is a very risky behavior. Once the stimulation is excessive or out of control, the cell tissues of the body will be seriously damaged, and even a large range of necrosis will occur, life-threatening. So I have been using the local stimulation method, but Kirin not only used the whole-body stimulation method, but also obviously overdid it." Asma wondered, "Overdid it?" Kakashi nodded, then pointed to the training field in the distance. "You see, the electric light around his body is a phenomenon caused by excessive lightning release chakra directly exposed to the air, but if it is just to stimulate the cells and enhance physical fitness, there is no need to do this at all. He is simply playing with his life." Asuma and Kurenai are both jonin, and they are experienced and knowledgeable, so they quickly understood what Kakashi meant. In short, under normal circumstances, using the lightning release stimulation method to stimulate the cell tissues, the whole process is completed in the body, and it is not visible on the surface, and there will be no overflow of electric light. And like Kirin in the training field to the point of overflowing electric light, it only shows one thing, that is, Kirin's stimulation of his own cell tissues has far exceeded the normal level, like walking on a tightrope, to the point that even a ninja of Kakashi's level is frightened. What on earth is he doing? In the depths of his heart, Kakashi asked the same question as Asma and Red before. He had planned to communicate with Kirin in private before the third exam. After all, he had not only learned Kirin's purple lightning secret technique, but he had also taught it to Sasuke. But after watching Kirin's training, he immediately threw this to the back of his mind. Because in his opinion, with the strength of a ninja like Mist Release Kekkai Genkai, Kirin would never do useless things, so there must be an ulterior motive for Kirin to practice like this. In the training field, Hyojin stopped and panted. As he abruptly stopped moving like a ghost, his silhouette and the lightning surrounding him seemed to waver in the eyes of the onlookers for a while before they gradually returned to their original positions and converged into one. Tsk, he reached the limit so quickly. After a light breath, Hyojin turned his head and glanced at Kakashi and the others who were peeping at him in the distance. Naturally, the existence of Kakashi and the others was discovered by Hyojin, but he did not care. If Kakashi or the village could learn something from him, as Naruto, he would be happy to see it happen. The first update is here, asking for recommendation votes, monthly votes. Chapter 994. Retracting his gaze from the distance, Hyojin activated Byakugan and inspected his body. At this time, his chest felt like it was on fire. Many parts of his respiratory tract were damaged. Even a normal breath would cause his heart and lungs to hurt. This undoubtedly meant that his respiratory system, especially his heart and lungs, had reached their limit. If he forced himself to continue, it was very likely that his heart would stop or his lungs would die. In addition, his limbs were also sore and weak. Some of his muscles that were not very strong even had obvious tears. Tisk. Looking at the feedback of his body's condition through Byakugan's vision, Hyojin could not help but spit again. His face darkened. He had expected the difficulty of practicing the lightning release chakra mode from the beginning, but he did not expect it to be this difficult. Even his lightning release clone that had mastered purple lightning and mist release couldn't bear it. It seems that the previous mastery of purple lightning and mist release was too smooth, causing a certain range of deviation in the strength of this lightning release clone. Soon, Hyojin began to reflect on himself. Since he had many experiences in developing bloodline limit and bloodline elimination, he was a true master in terms of changing the nature of chakra. Moreover, this lightning release clone also contained Kakashi's cells, so it had a very high affinity with lightning chakra. That was why he could master purple lightning and mist release so smoothly. However, the lightning release chakra mode was completely different from the purple lightning and mist release chakra mode. Therefore, whether it was Hyojin's rich experience in changing the nature of chakra or Kakashi's excellent cells, they could not help him when practicing the lightning release chakra mode. Moreover, the lightning release chakra mode is different from his Tenseigan chakra mode. The former is rougher and more primitive, so the requirements for the caster's physical fitness are extremely harsh. The latter, because of the gentle nature of the Tenseigan chakra, allows the caster to easily enter the Tenseigan chakra mode, as long as they have the Tenseigan chakra technique and master the hand seals. There are no excessive requirements for physical fitness. Therefore, Hyojin is currently stuck in the problem of physical fitness. In fact, this is also a matter of course, because in the shinobi world, the lightning release chakra mode, passed down from generation to generation in the Cloud Village of Laying, is stronger than the bloodline limit. In the Cloud Village, mastering mist release Kekkei Genkai Chakra Genkai may not even be a Laying candidate. Can't even become a Laying candidate. But if one has mastered lightning release chakra mode, as long as there is no stain on the body, then the position of Laying is basically set in stone. Because compared with the bloodline limit, passed down from generation to generation, lightning release chakra mode has more demanding requirements for the ninja. Not every ninja who has mastered mist release Kekkei Genkai is a Kage level expert, but as long as one has mastered lightning release chakra mode, then without exception, almost all of them have steadily stepped into the threshold of the Kage level. Therefore, lightning release chakra mode for the Cloud Village is the same as magnet release for the Sand Crypsis and dust release for the Rock Village. It is not only the embodiment of strength, but also the embodiment of status, so the difficulty of practicing it is naturally extraordinary. After putting away all kinds of divergent thoughts, Hyojin seriously analyzed the current predicament. He was basically familiar with the lightning release stimulation method, so the only thing that stopped him from mastering lightning release chakra mode was the strength of his body. Kakashi and I do not belong to the category of people with extraordinary physique. Therefore, this lightning release clone only inherited our fine control of chakra and our affinity with lightning chakra. In terms of physique, it does not have any outstanding performance. If I want to master lightning release chakra mode, I have to increase the strength of this clone. Not having a strong body was undoubtedly a very widespread problem. If he wanted to solve this problem completely, he might need 10 years or even 20 years of hard work if he could not find the right remedy. However, Hyojin obviously could not wait that long. Therefore, he had to find the right remedy and start from the weakness of this lightning release clone. He had to increase the strength of this lightning release clone with the highest efficiency. Respiratory system, muscle group. Because of the Byakugan inspecting his body, Hyojin quickly identified which parts of the clone were the weakness. His eyes narrowed as he thought to himself, the unveil can effectively recover the damage of the respiratory system and muscle group. If I carry out targeted training, I should be able to train the muscle group easily, but how should I train the respiratory system? Muscles were the easiest to train, but it was a different story when it came to fragile and delicate organs like the respiratory system. Hyojin had a lot of methods to repair organs, such as the unveil and the body activation secret technique. However, he could not find a method to train the organs in a short period of time. No wonder there are so many experts in the Cloud Village, but only the Raikage can master the lightning release chakra mode. This is a harsh requirement on the physique. If one is not talented, it would be useless for an ordinary person to use it. While Kuroda was cursing in his mind, a thought suddenly flashed in his mind. So, he immediately left the training field and returned to the guest house. He found Xiang Lin, who was resting in the guest house, and asked, "Where is Zi Luo of Sand Crypsis?" Xiang Lin was a little curious as to why Hyojin suddenly wanted to find Zi Luo of Sand Crypsis, but she did not ask. She quickly activated Eye of Kagura and replied, "I found her. She is in the 7th training field. Let's go." After calling Xiang Lin, Hyojin and Zi Luo went to the 7th training field. Just as Hyojin expected, Zi Luo was a ninja who did not relax for even a moment. Although it was already late, Zi Luo was still practicing hard in the training field. In Hyojin's field of vision with the Byakugan, there was a large amount of chakra in Zi Luo's heart and lungs. "Is this 7 days' call?" Hyojin muttered to himself. Xiang Lin, who was on the side, asked curiously, "Sir, why did you bring me here?" Hyojin immediately ordered, "I need the breathing technique that Zi Luo is using now. Record his chakra movement trajectory, breathing rhythm, heartbeat frequency, and other data." Xiang Lin nodded and focused all his attention on Zi Luo on the training ground. Hyojin's Byakugan could see through all the details of Zi Luo's body, and Xiang Lin's Rinnegan could record Zi Luo's chakra movement. At the same time, Eye of Kagura could also sense the changes in Zi Luo's chakra. So, with the two of them working together, Zi Luo's 7 days call was gradually revealed in front of them. During dinner, there was an earthquake here. The building was shaking. It scared me to death. Chapter 995. Under the dim yellow light, a figure could be seen moving up and down the training field. Compared to when Hyojin was training, the lightning that filled the training field was different. This figure was full of momentum. Every time he raised his hand, every move he made was accompanied by a great power. The air around him seemed to buzz and tremble. Without a doubt, the person training in the training field was none other than the strongest physical technique genius in the history of the Sand Crypsis, Zi Luo. The reason why Zi Luo was said to be the strongest physical technique genius in the Sand Crypsis was not only because of his high attainments in physical techniques, but also because he had developed a secret skill called the 7-day call. In fact, the 7-day call was a breathing technique. It absorbed a large amount of oxygen from the air and then used the body's respiratory system to circulate throughout the body, allowing the body's cells to maintain an extremely high level of oxidation, thus increasing the activity of the cells. This was different from the 8 inner hidden gates, which opened the internal limits of the human body, and the lightning escape stimulation, which used the lightning attribute chakra to stimulate the cells. It was a completely different method. In the second round of the exam, Zi Luo had relied on his self-created 7 days call to fight with Little Li's 8 inner hidden gate. Neither side had been able to determine the victor. It could be seen that at least at the stage of opening the fourth gate of the 8 inner hidden gates, the 7-day call, Ziluo's self-created 7-day call, was not inferior to the 8 inner hidden gates. As for whether or not the 7-day call could match the 8 inner hidden gates, without actual combat, no one could say for sure. However, according to Hyojin's understanding of the human body, the core of the 7-day call was the respiratory system. Therefore, in theory, its upper limit was lower than the 8 inner hidden gates, which opened the restrictions of the entire body. This was especially true for the 8th gate of the 8 inner hidden gates, the death gate. Once it was opened, it would completely burn oneself. This was similar to the 5-card stud on the gambling table. The user would bet everything of their body, such as their body, chakra, and even their will. This would allow their mortal body to temporarily obtain a terrifying power that could injure a god. But the 7-day call technique could not achieve this. According to the principles of the 7-day breathe, as long as the breathing system of the user was damaged, the effect of the 7-day breathe would instantly disappear. Simply put, in terms of digging out the potential of the human body, the 7-day breath that only focused on the respiratory system was unable to compare with the 8 inner hidden gates. In other words, there is no technique in the current shinobi world that is more excellent and thorough in digging out the potential of the human body than the Hashimen Tonku. This is because the Hashimen Tonku is a technique that allows the user to be like a meteor that blossoms for an instant. But even so, the 7 days call was still one of the best among the body technique secret skills. It was a creation worthy of praise. After listening to Xiaoli's introduction of Ziluo, Guy became interested in this genius body technique of the sand crypsis. Therefore, whenever he had free time these days, he would come to observe Ziluo's practice. It's not that he wanted to steal Ziluo's 7-day call. For him, the Hashimen Tonku alone is enough for him to spend a lifetime studying it. He came here to observe Ziluo's practice, because he wanted to understand the extent of this genius body technique of the sand crypsis and whether the 7-day call was really as wonderful as Xiaoli described. Whoosh, accompanied by a few sounds of breaking wind, Kakashi, Asma, and Kurenai also arrived at the side of the 7th practice field. Guy asked curiously, "Hey, why are you guys here?" Looking at Ziluo, who was practicing hard in the practice field, Asma asked, "Is this the practice field that the village assigned to Ziluo of the sand crypsis?" Guy was even more puzzled. "If you don't even know this, then why are you here at night?" Kurenai pointed at the 2 figures under the shadow of a big tree in the distance, and said softly, "We followed them here." Guy looked over and saw 2 figures under a big tree at the other end of the practice field. However, Guy didn't pay too much attention to them because there were too many people coming and going to spy on Ziluo's practice. However, a secret body technique like the 7-day call was not something that could be mastered with just a few glances. Therefore, many of the spies left after realizing that they couldn't see anything special about Ziluo. Kakashi, who had been silent all this time, was observing Hyojin, who was hiding in the shadow opposite him. At the same time, he was secretly thinking about why Hyojin suddenly came here. On the other side, Hyojin used roll-eye to observe Ziluo's every move in the practice field. He even memorized the rhythm of Ziluo's breathing, heartbeat, and other details. If it was an ordinary person, it would indeed be difficult to derive the 7-day call just by observing Ziluo's practice. But Hyojin is different. First, he has the Byakugan to observe Ziluo's body and the flow of chakra. Second, he is a taijutsu expert who has mastered soft fist, Hashimen Tonku, and other secret technique. Third, he is the master of the most advanced human cloning technology in the shinobi world. His understanding of the human body structure even surpasses 99% of the medical ninjas. In addition, there is also Xiang Lin, who has the Rinnegan and Heart Eye Kagura. Perhaps because the 3rd exam will officially start the day after tomorrow, Ziluo didn't practice until late tonight. After sweating profusely, he left the practice field. Interesting. Looking at Ziluo's back as he left, Hyojin chuckled. As he expected, the 7-day call, developed by Ziluo, could indeed have the effect of training the respiratory system. Because in the vision of his Byakugan, Ziluo's respiratory system is obviously stronger than ordinary people. He estimated that Ziluo's lung capacity has probably reached the level of 3 to 4 times that of an ordinary person. After returning to the guest house, Hyojin and Xiang Lin began to supplement each other's observations. With the two of them complementing each other, when Ziluo practiced the 7-day call, the breathing rhythm, the heartbeat rate, the position and speed of chakra flow, and other details were all presented. Soon, the 7-day call was presented in the form of data in Hyojin's mind. There was no doubt that the information he collected was not the full scope of the 7-day call. It wasn't even the beginner's level, but it was enough for him. Because in his eyes, Ziluo's 7-day call had some limitations and drawbacks, so he didn't need to fully accept the 7-day call. All he needed was the train of thought and technique of the 7-day call to train the heart, lungs, and respiratory system. Here's the first update, asking for recommendation votes and monthly votes. Chapter 996. With the arrival of the daimyo of the 5 great countries in my village, the 3rd round of the Chunin exam, which indicates that the 5 great shinobi villages are moving from confrontation to cooperation, finally began. Early in the morning, the streets of my village were exceptionally noisy. On the crowded street, people gathered from all directions, like a tide, slowly flocking to the venue in the center of the village that has been renovated several times. Naruto, over here. Over here. In the tide of people coming and going, Chunichi stood on his tiptoes and greeted Naruto from a distance. Naruto, who was preparing to rush to the venue, and Sakura struggled through the crowd and finally squeezed to the side of Chunichi and the others. Asuma, who was with Shikamaru, Chunichi, and Ino, saw only Naruto and Sakura and asked, "How come it's only the 2 of you? Where are Kakashi and Sasuke?" Naruto said, "Kakashi, Sensei, and Sasuke are gone." Sakura also looked worried. "Asuma, Sensei, have you seen Kakashi, Sensei, and Sasuke in the past few days? We haven't seen them for a few days." Thinking of Kakashi's mysterious appearance the night before yesterday, Asuma said, "Don't worry, Sasuke must be with Kakashi." Perhaps because he was too fat, Chunichi was constantly pushed by the passers-by, so he complained in a low voice, "Why are there so many people on the street today?" Asuma frowned when he heard this. The attendance of the daimyo of the 5 great countries caused nobles from all over the country to flock to watch this unprecedented Chunin exam in the history of the shinobi village. This caused the number of tourists in the village to soar, and the clean and spacious streets that Mai had rebuilt suddenly became crowded. Although the surge in tourists could bring rich economic benefits to Mai, it was also a great test for Mai's security. Therefore, although Asuma knew that there were a lot of Umbu who were secretly protecting Naruto, he still told Naruto and Sakura, "Don't run around, follow me to the venue." And Naruto and Sakura, who were about to go to the venue, hurriedly nodded. Under Asuma's lead, the group quickly arrived at the venue and entered the contestants' resting area. At this time, the venue was even livelier than the last time the village held the Naruto election. There was still nearly an hour before the official start of the exam, but the auditorium was already filled to the brim. As far as the eye can see, the venue was almost full of people. At this time, Kurenai, Guy, and Mute, who were also leading their respective teams, also came to the resting area. Seeing only Naruto and Sakura, Kurenai wondered, "Where is Kakashi?" Asuma shook his head. "I don't know, but I have arranged for the Umbu to find him." Guy was a little worried. "He won't be late today, right?" Several shinobi knew that Kakashi has been busy giving special training to Sasuke these days, so they were not very worried about Kakashi's safety, but they were afraid that Kakashi would miss the exam. Naruto, you must do your best in today's exam. Yes, let's show the other villages' examinees. Let them know the power of our Mai. While the several shinobi were chatting on the other side of the resting area, the other students also gathered around Naruto. Listening to the encouragement of his peers, Naruto laughed and said, "Don't worry, I will definitely perform well today." At this time, Ningxi's eyes locked on Hyojin, who was riding the Thunder Release clone in the opposite resting area, and said, "Naruto, be careful of the Kirin of the Mist Village." Naruto looked over and nodded heavily. Shikamaru also looked over and asked, "I heard that the Kirin of the Mist Village is second only to Rock Village Deadale in this exam. Is he really that strong?" "Yes." Ningxi and Naruto responded at the same time. In the second exam, both of them suffered a loss in the hands of this Kirin, so they are very clear about his strength. Not long after, the daimyo of the 5 major countries and the Kage of the 5 great ninja villages appeared on the stage and entered the VIP stand. With the daimyo of the 5 countries and the Kage taking their seats one by one, the last exam of the Chunin exam jointly organized by the 5 great ninja villages finally officially began. Whoosh! With a burst of wind, Itachi landed in the center of the venue. As the vice principal of the ninja school, he was chosen by the village to be the referee of this exam, so he entered the venue first and read the rules of this exam in public. Because the daimyo and the Kage were present and there were so many spectators, everyone naturally didn't want unnecessary casualties in the exam, so it was clearly stated in the rules that the examinees were not allowed to use dangerous ninjutsu that could threaten the venue and the surrounding audience. After reading the rules of the exam, Itachi announced to the enthusiastic cheers of the audience, "The first match, my Uchiha Sasuke against the Kirin of the Mist Village." In the resting area of the Mist Village, Mizukage smiled and said, "Captain, I didn't expect you to be the first to play, and your opponent is Mai's kid. Your luck is really good." The corner of Hyojin's mouth under the mask raised, and without any nonsense, he directly used the body flicker technique to appear in the venue. On the other side, in the resting area of Mai, Naruto was taken aback. "What, the first match is Sasuke?" Sakura also said anxiously, "Oh no, Sasuke hasn't arrived yet, what should we do?" Asuma and other Jonin instructors quickly asked the Umbu next to him, "Is there any news about Kakashi and Sasuke yet?" The Umbu helplessly said, "We have searched all the practice fields in the village, but we still haven't found any trace of the acting Sama. We suspect that the acting Sama may not be in the village at all." At this time, Jiraiya and Tsunade walked into the resting area side by side and asked, "Where is Sasuke? Why hasn't he played yet?" Asuma quickly replied, "Kakashi and Sasuke haven't arrived yet." Jiraiya knew that Kakashi took Sasuke for special training outside the village, so he immediately frowned and said, "It's already so late, why haven't they come back yet?" Mute leaned in front of Tsunade and asked, "What should we do now?" Tsunade said, "We can only skip Sasuke's match first." Itachi, who received the feedback, was stunned for a moment and immediately announced, "Due to the personal reasons of candidate Uchiha Sasuke, the first match will be postponed. The second match will be between my Vortex Naruto and Sand Crypsis Zero." Hyojin, who had already left the arena, was also a little surprised and said, "What the hell is Kakashi doing? Don't ruin my plan." If everything went well, this time he had at least 70% confidence in stimulating Sasuke to awaken the Manjikyu Sharingan, but he did not expect Kakashi and Sasuke to be late. This familiar scene reminded him of Kakashi and Sasuke, who were late for the Chunin exam in the original time and space. He couldn't help but wonder if Kakashi was holding back some big move for Sasuke. The second update is here, asking for recommendation votes and monthly vote. Also, thank you to the students who gave gifts today. Thank you everyone. Chapter 997. Is it my turn to go on? Naruto clenched his fist, looking very confident. Hinata gathered his courage and came to Naruto's side. Naruto, please be careful. Xiaoli hurriedly pushed Hinata away and said seriously, Naruto, Ziluo is a real genius in taijutsu. If you are careless, you will lose to him. Sakura also showed a rare smile to Naruto. Don't lose. Facing the concern and expectation of his fellow students, Naruto smiled and said, Don't worry everyone, I will not lose the face of the village. Don't forget that I will become Naruto's man in the future. After saying that, Naruto jumped down and landed steadily in the venue. Now he has multiple shadow clone technique, Rasengan, tail beast transformation, spirit summoning, sage mode, and many other trump cards. Even among the Jonins, his means are extremely rich. And even if he was restricted by the rules of the competition this time and was unable to use the spirit communication technique and summon the gigantic spirit beast Xianya, he still had the tail beast transformation as his trump card, as well as the perfect combination of the multiple shadow clone technique and the Rasengan. On this side, Naruto left the stage. On the other side, in the rest area of the sand crypsis, Ziluo also greeted Hand Bao and Kankuro, then his figure flashed and appeared in the center of the venue. As the two contestants appeared on the stage, the venue immediately burst into enthusiastic cheers. Affected by the cheers and shouts from the stands, both Naruto and Ziluo were inexplicably nervous and excited. Taking the exam under the eyes of thousands of people is undoubtedly an unprecedented experience for both of them. As the referee, Itachi's shadow clone glanced at the two and immediately announced, "The competition begins." As soon as Itachi finished speaking, he activated the teleportation tactic and left the battlefield. At the same time, the four violet flame formation around him rose slowly and isolated the battlefield from the spectator's stand. This wasn't because the advisory elder group was making a fuss over a minor issue. After the tragic lesson of the second exam, the advisory elder group knew that many of the 10 candidates who advanced to the third exam were close to the shadow level, and some had even reached the shadow level. Therefore, for this third exam, the advisory elder group did not regard it as an ordinary Chunin exam at all, but directly used the defensive strength of Naruto's election, and activated the 4 violet flame formation throughout the whole process of the exam, so as to prevent the aftermath of the battle from hurting the daimyo and the audience in the stands. The rise of the 4 purple flame formation seemed to separate the arena and the spectator stands into 2 different worlds. Although they could still hear the cheers and chatter from the spectator stands, Naruto and Ziluo only had eyes for each other. Ziluo stretched her limbs and said, "Are you Mai's human pillar?" Naruto nodded and said, "Yes, I am Uzumaki Naruto. I heard that you are very strong. I hope your performance today will not disappoint me." Ziluo slowly got into a stance, and his chest also rose and fell. As he breathed, the airflow around him instantly became dense, and the muscles on his body swelled a lot. Seeing this, Naruto raised his hands and made a seal. "I will defeat you." Bang! In a burst of white smoke, hundreds of Narutos appeared on the field in an instant. First activity, open. Second activity, open. Third activity, open. Looking around at the hundreds of Naruto's shadow doppelgangers, Ziluo's expression did not change. In an instant, he activated the 7 days breathing technique to the third activity. Third activity was the limit he could bear in his current state. If he continued to increase it, it would cause a huge burden on his body, especially his heart, lungs, and respiratory system, causing the time to maintain the 7 days breathing technique to be greatly shortened. Therefore, unless it was a last resort, he would not easily try a deeper level of activity. "I'm going to attack." After a shout, Ziluo's body wrapped in a huge wave of air, like a storm rushing towards the hundreds of Naruto's shadow doppelgangers in the field. Naruto did not have the slightest bit of fear. The shadow doppelgangers formed groups of two, distancing themselves from each other while condensing Tenseigan. In an instant, dazzling Tenseigan appeared on the field, and under the control of Naruto's shadow doppelgangers, they rushed towards Zi-Luo, who was wrapped in a wave of air. Rumble, the continuous roars immediately resounded throughout the arena, causing the audience in the stands to be dumbfounded. Most of the audience did not know the background of the 10 candidates in the third round of the exam. Everyone thought it was just a battle between genin, and they did not expect the first battle to cause such a big commotion. In Mai's resting area, this guy Ningxi, who had activated the Byakugan, looked extremely solemn. Although he had heard Xiaoli mention Zi-Luo of the Sand Crypsis and knew that Zi-Luo was very powerful, he was still secretly shocked when he saw Zi-Luo use the 7 days call. This was because Zi-Luo's current state was exactly the same as Xiaoli, who had activated the 8 inner hidden gates. In his field of vision with the Byakugan, at this moment, Zi-Luo's body cells were highly active, and a large amount of oxygen had accumulated in his chest cavity. At the same time, the overflowing chakra, sweat, and air mixed together to form a dense orange air flow. At first glance, it looked as if he had put on a layer of tail beast chakra coat. Tian pouted and complained, "He's the one who caused us to be eliminated." Xiaoli scratched her head in embarrassment. "Ningxi, I'm sorry." Ningxi didn't blame Tian and Xiaoli. Instead, he said, "I should be the one to apologize, because I took the initiative to leave the team, which caused you to be eliminated." At this time, Guy walked to them and said, "You have to observe this battle carefully." In the rock rest area, Deadale propped his chin with one hand and smiled casually. "I didn't expect Mai's Jinchuriki to use such tactics." Kuroto frowned and said, "A pure body technique ninja is at a disadvantage when encountering this kind of tactics. It seems that this Sand Crypsis will lose to Mai." In the cloud rest area, Dalui leaned against the guardrail. His eyes did not stay on the ongoing competition in the field, but intentionally or unintentionally looked at Hyojin in the mist rest area. For him, compared to this Chunin exam, he is more concerned about the Mist Kirin, who has the same Kekkei Genkai as him and has mastered the Thunder Attribute Chakra. In the Sand Crypsis rest area, Shouju didn't pay too much attention to the competition in the field, because in her opinion, Zi-Luo should have no problem dealing with Mai's Jinchuriki. Compared to worrying about Zi-Luo, she is more worried about her opponent. After observing the other candidates in the rest area, she thought to herself, "Now only Rock Village's Deadale, Kuroto, Cloud Village's Dalui, Takanin's Fu, and Mist Village's Mizukage have not been assigned opponents." After some consideration, her eyes finally locked on Mizukage in the mist rest area. Sure enough, this guy is the easiest to deal with. First update. Chapter 998. Not to mention the candidates in the resting area who had their own thoughts, the battle in the field had gradually reached its climax. Rumble under the almost blanket attack of Naruto's Rasengan bullets, the flat ground in the field suddenly became full of potholes. Zi-Luo's movement space was gradually reduced, and he was finally forced into a corner. Fourth activity, activate. Faced with such a predicament, Zi-Luo had no choice but to increase the activation of his body. Swoosh! In an instant, Zi-Luo's speed immediately increased by a large margin after activating the fourth activity. He moved at high speed, leaving a long afterimage in the field. Once the speed reached a certain threshold, the number of enemies was no longer a problem. Zi-Luo, who had activated the fourth activity, had reached this threshold. In this state, his speed and reaction completely crushed Naruto's shadow clones in his normal state. Bang bang bang, as a result, the muffled sound of Naruto's shadow clones exploding could be heard continuously. In the midst of the white smoke of the shadow clones collapsing, the number of Naruto's shadow clones in the field was also rapidly decreasing at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the resting area. Sakura said anxiously, How could he be so fast? With Sakura's current insight, her eyes could not even catch the figure of Ziluo who had activated the fourth activity. Therefore, in her vision, the field was filled with Ziluo's afterimages and Naruto's shadow clones that were being destroyed one after another. Ningxi's face also sank. Even with his white eye, it was difficult for him to see Ziluo's movements clearly. Xiaoli then said to Kai-sensei, Ziluo's speed now is even faster than during the second exam. Kai nodded, his face full of emotion. It's incredible. This kind of body activation is almost equivalent to the effect of opening the fifth gate of the 8 inner hidden gates, the Gate of Limit. Gate of Limit. After a pause, Xiaoli said, He's really stronger than me. Xiaoli's current limit was opening the fourth gate of hurt. Although he had already begun to try to open the fifth gate of limit, it was obvious that he could not compare to Ziluo, who could already activate the fourth activity and use it in battle. In the stands, the audience also let out a burst of exclamation, because the two people fighting in the field completely subverted their understanding of genin. Coupled with the ear-piercing screeches that resounded from time to time on the stage, and the crackling sounds of the flying rocks hitting the 4 violet flame formation, the audience was both terrified and excited at the same time. Compared to the ordinary spectator stands, the VIP area was much quieter. The 5 daimyo held their folding fans and chatted leisurely. The topic of their discussion was not limited to the exam before them. On the other side, the 5 shadows were watching the competition seriously. They would even chat a little when they saw something interesting. Seeing that more than half of Naruto's hundreds of shadow doppelgangers were wiped out by Ziluo in just a few breaths, 4 generations Laying couldn't help but exclaim, Even in our Cloud Village, only a few people can reach this speed. 4 generations of Kazekage smiled proudly, Mr. Laying is overpraising me. 3 generations of Tsuchikage also smiled, and then deliberately asked Itachi, who was disguised as Hyojin, Naruto, who do you think will win this battle? The other Kages all looked over at this time, waiting for Naruto's answer. Itachi, who was disguised as Hyojin, pondered for a moment and said, Naruto's chances of winning should be higher. 4 generations of Kazekage snorted lightly. Humph, is that so? Afterward, the 5 shadows no longer spoke, all of them looked at the field. At their level, it was meaningless to argue, it was better to wait quietly for the result to be revealed. In the field. After realizing that with his current physical skills, pure shadow doppelgangers could no longer keep Ziluo in check, Naruto did not continue to waste Chakra's multiple shadow doppelganger technique. Instead, while Ziluo was busy clearing out his shadow doppelgangers, he quickly adjusted his mentality and entered the tailed beast form. Whoosh, as the orange-red tailed beast coat appeared, one after another chakra tail came out of Naruto's body, and it only stopped when the 5th tail appeared. At the same time, the remaining shadow doppelgangers of Naruto in the field all disappeared in an instant. As far as the eye could see, in the field full of potholes and smoke, only Ziluo, who was maintaining the state of 7 days' breath, and Naruto, who was in the tailed beast form, were left facing each other. Tailed beast form? For a moment, whether it was the VIP area, the ordinary stands, or the examinees' rest area, everyone exclaimed. The famous people in the VIP area had different expressions, and the audience in the stands exclaimed in horror. Some of the examinees who had not seen Naruto's tailed beast form in the second round of the exam had a solemn expression. Because Naruto dared to transform into a tailed beast in the field, it could only mean one thing, and that was that Naruto had reached a reconciliation with the 9 tails in his body, and he had the qualifications to become a perfect human pillar strength. At this time, Naruto in the field was like a beast, with his forelimbs on the ground and hot air coming out of his mouth. The 5 exposed tails behind him were wagging casually, and his whole body exuded an extremely exaggerated aura. Feeling the surging 9 tails chakra on Naruto's body, Ziluo's expression changed. Is this the power of 9 tails? Ziluo's expression changed as he thought about it. He knew very well that his fourth activity could not deal with the tailed beast form of Naruto in front of him, so he quickened the speed of his breathing, lowered his body, and growled, "Fifth activity, activate." Boom! With Ziluo as the center, a huge wave of air spread out in all directions, instantly blowing away the smoke and dust that covered the entire field. In the center of the wave of air, Ziluo's muscles seemed to have expanded to the limit, and his skin turned from red to dark purple. In the resting area, Hyojin's eyes turned cold. Just by breathing, this kid can make his body active to this degree. It's really, all of a sudden, Hyojin did not know how to evaluate Ziluo of Sand Crypsis, who had created the 7 days of breathing in a different way. However, according to Hyojin's experience, Ziluo should have reached his limit by now. In his field of vision with the white eye, Ziluo's heart and lungs were all in a congested state. Obviously, a body of flesh and blood could not maintain this state for a long time. In the ordinary stance, Kimimaro, who was sitting in a wheelchair being pushed by Yugo, had a calm expression on his face. He did not fit in with the nervous and excited audience around him. After Tsunade's treatment, he had regained consciousness. Orochimaru also wanted to see if Tsunade could cure Kimimaro's blood secondary disease, so he did not summon them back to the Sound Village in a hurry. As a result, the 3 ninjas who were free also came to the venue to watch the third exam. At this time, Yugo, who was pushing the wheelchair, said, "I didn't expect there to be such a guy in the Sand Crypsis. Do you think he can defeat Mai's Jinchuriki?" Kimimaro and Haku shook their heads at the same time. In the field, Bang Ziluo, who had finished accumulating power, did not hesitate. He stomped on the ground, and at the same time, his whole body flew towards Naruto like a cannonball. Naruto, who was lying low on the ground, suddenly swung his tail, and the 5 chakra tails quickly grew longer and wrapped around Ziluo, who was rushing towards him. Second update. Chapter 999. Boom! Ziluo and the 5 violent 9 tails chakra tails collided with each other with a loud bang. In a split second, the huge impact caused the ground to fly up into the air. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Due to the turbulence, countless gravel flew out and smashed on the 4 purple flame formation that isolated the battlefield from the spectator stands, causing ripples to form on the formation wall. Ah, is it an earthquake? What happened? Looking at the dust-filled venue and feeling the intense tremors under their butts, the audience in the stands were all terrified. Although the 4 purple flame formation blocked the flying gravel, it could not completely isolate the aftermath of the tremors. The huge impact caused by the collision of Ziluo and chakra tails spread along the ground all the way to the stands, shaking the entire arena. Everyone, please don't run around. The stands are very sturdy and there will be no problem. The ninjas in charge of maintaining order in the arena immediately went out and shouted from the stands, trying to calm the panicking audience. At the same time, a large number of Earth Release ninjas rushed to the various pillars of the stands and decisively used their Earth Release ninjutsu to protect the load-bearing pillars. The chaos in the stands did not affect the fierce battle in the arena. Ziluo, who had activated his 5th activity, was blocked by Naruto's 5 9 tails chakra tails. Ziluo immediately launched a fierce attack. The 5 tails, which were more than 10 meters long and as wide as a person, were almost shattered by Ziluo's punch. However, the shattered tails did not dissipate just like that. The orange-red 9 tails chakra tails that scattered in the air quickly condensed again, as if they had a mind of their own. In the blink of an eye, they returned to their original terrifying tails. Naruto did not stay idle either. He used the 5 tails as cover and pounced forward to fight Ziluo. It was clearly a one-on-one fight, but with the help of the 5 chakra tails, it actually created an absurd feeling that it was 6 against 1. Although Naruto's physical skills weren't as good as Zi-Luo's, he wasn't too far behind. Moreover, he had the protection of the tailed beast's coat, so he wasn't afraid of Zi-Luo's attacks at all. Therefore, his moves were wide open and ever-changing. Sometimes, he would use his chakra's claws, like a wild beast pouncing on its prey. Sometimes, he would use his fists and legs, using the My-Steel Fist. His moves were dazzling and impossible to defend against. On the other hand, because of the special nature of the 7 Days Call, Zi-Luo couldn't be like Xiaoli, who had opened the 8 inner hidden gates and could freely attack his enemies. This was because he could not allow himself to be injured. Once he was injured, it would be difficult for him to maintain the 7 Days Call. Therefore, his hands were tied. Against Naruto, who had transformed into a 5-tailed beast, he gradually fell into a disadvantageous position. In the VIP seat, seeing that the battle was gradually becoming unfavorable to Zi-Luo, the face of 4 generations of Kazekage became gloomy. The 3 generations of Tsuchikage smiled and said, "Sure enough, Mai is better?" The 4 generations of Lei Ying shook his head. A pure taijutsu ninja is indeed a bit difficult to deal with the Jinchuriki. In this regard, the 4 generations of Lei Ying was quite emotional. Because the 3 generations of Lei Ying's physical skills were strong, when subduing the 8-tailed beast, it took a lot of effort and finally, he was exhausted and fell to the ground. The 4 generations of Mizukage, who rarely spoke, couldn't help but say, "Nine Tails is really different." The 4 generations of Mizukage himself was a perfect Jinchuriki. The tailed beast form was not dangerous for him, so he often entered the tailed beast form to fight. But after looking at Naruto's tailed beast form, he deeply realized the difference between 9 Tails and other tailed beasts. After listening to the 4 generations of Mizukage's words, the other Kages were shocked. Because they suddenly realized that because of the unexpected death of the previous 9 Tails' Jinchuriki Vortex Kushina, Mai was absent for more than 10 years. Now, the 9 Tails' Jinchuriki has finally returned to Mai's battle order. Moreover, it was a Jinchuriki that could reach an understanding with 9 Tails at the age of 12 and retain his consciousness to activate the tailed beast form. Mai has passed the weak period caused by the death of the 4 generations of Naruto and his wife. For a time, this thought flashed in the minds of the Kages. In the field, the more Naruto fought, the smoother and smoother the connection between the moves was getting more and more smooth. Zi-Luo, who was being suppressed, dodged the sweep of Naruto's 5 chakra giant tails while thinking about countermeasures. He had no experience in dealing with the Jinchuriki, not to mention it was the strongest of all the tailed beasts, 9-tailed. It must be known that in its peak state, 9-tailed could fight 1 against 8 and wrestle with the other 8-tailed beasts. In the original space and time, Jiraiya almost lost his life in order to subdue the rampaging Naruto, who revealed his 4 tails. "I can't go on like this." Feeling that Naruto's condition was getting better and better, and even began to gradually adapt to his physical style, Zi-Luo no longer hesitated and immediately made up his mind to launch the final blow. In addition to Naruto's unusual ability to adapt, what prompted him to make up his mind was his seriously overloaded cardiopulmonary respiratory system. Because if he did not end the battle, he would not be able to maintain the 7-day breath technique. After making up his mind, Zi-Luo immediately gave up defense and dodging. He gathered all the strength in his body and punched Naruto. Bang! Caught off guard, Naruto was instantly hit and his whole body was sent flying. "Got it!" Zi-Luo was overjoyed. Chuck, however, at this moment, the 5 chakra giant tails behind Naruto suddenly stabbed the ground and firmly nailed into the soil. Not only did they pull Naruto, who was sent flying, but they also used the counterforce of nailing the ground to swing Naruto back. Seeing Naruto swing back through the chakra giant tails, the joy on Zi-Luo's face instantly froze. Then, with a surprised look on his face, he was sent flying by Naruto's punch. Ziluo, who was already at his limit, was severely injured. In midair, he deactivated the 7-day breath technique. Like a deflated balloon, he fell to the ground and fainted. Seeing that Ziluo had lost consciousness, Naruto immediately deactivated his tailed beast form and shouted happily in the field, "I won!" At this time, there was a burst of cheers in the stands. The 4 purple flame formation that isolated the battlefield from the stands gradually faded in the deafening cheers. As the main referee, Itachi entered the field and announced, "The winner of this match is Mai's Vortex Naruto." In the resting area of the sand crypsis, Shoju's face was dull. Ziluo lost? She really did not expect that Ziluo would lose to the seemingly unreliable Jinchuriki of Mai. Kankuro's face was bitter. "I really shouldn't have participated in this Chunin exam. It hurts my pride. Today there will be double the monthly vote. Please support me with your monthly votes. Wait a moment, there will be the 4th update soon. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories."